It's the middle of the week. Welcome on the AM show. As always, I remain Benjamin Akakpo. And as always, I do this together with Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. From us to you, welcome aboard. Now, this wonderful morning that God has blessed us with, we're going to deliver the news shortly to you. And right after that, we'll be joined by political scientist and director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante. But from there, we get into our big stories. And first off, we're going to be having a one-on-one conversation with Andrew Ejapa Mercer. You probably remember his name, right? He's a Deputy Energy Minister and a Member of Parliament for 2nd D. Well, guess what? This morning, we'll be discussing all to do with energy in this country when he joins us for breakfast. But of course, I'll stretch it a bit and bring in some subjects that I'm sure he's going to be interested in. But also on the show, we'll bring you the latest on the situation in Bawku. Now, that situation is becoming scarier, more worrisome. We understand about 6 people have died following renewed clashes there. We'll be hearing from the stakeholders on this issue as we look at how we can bring some finality to the raging tensions that from time to time simmer in that community. But it's Wednesday again, and courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, will be coming your way with AM Business. Now today, we'll tell you about how the rising cost of feed for chicken has led to an increase in prices of poultry products. We'll bring you details later on the show. But as always, you get the chance to interact with us live on the show via our stream. That is with the hashtag AM show. And at the tail end, we'll offer you that opportunity to call and share your thoughts with us. Ghana 4, this is the best on morning television. Don't go anywhere else. We'll be back with the news. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news. Let's talk money because negotiations for increments in base pay for the 2023 working year have stalled as government failed to get a quorum to engage agitating labor unions. The unions initially asked the government to increase their base pay by 65%. Government says it can only afford to pay 18% more on their base pay. The latest meeting ended abruptly because some representatives on the side of government did not show up. Michael Ashali spoke to the Deputy Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Joshua Ansah.
Where are we now with the negotiations?
Oh, today negotiations did not come on because we didn't find a quorum. We weren't able to form quorum. Yes, so the negotiation had been postponed for another day.
But just to give us a sneak peek into what labor, what your idea was going to be. The last time I heard it was 58%. You had come down from 65. I mean, what were you coming to the meeting with?
Oh, no, my brother. We are coming to the meeting to listen to what the government is prepared to offer us. Yes, that was our plan of this meeting.
But the last time, they didn't give you any figure. So were you hoping that it would go up now?
That's our hope. But if they don't go up, you don't expect us also to do anything.
But many say you're holding government, you're holding a gun to their head. You have declared a strike on one side. You are refusing to allow your pensions to be part of the negotiations. So how do you expect us to get more money to pay you? You're asking for more, at least for now, 58% more.
58%, I think people do not understand why we're asking for the 60%, for which you account to 58. It's a simple analogy. You see, the base pay by law should be higher than the minimum wage. As I speak to you, the base pay is far, far, far lower than the minimum wage. As I speak to you now, the base pay is 11 cedis, 33 pesos. The minimum wage is 14.88. In bridging the gap, we need about 31.33% to come at par with the base pay. That alone is 31%. So if you are negotiating at this time, there's no way that you accept anything less than 31% plus. Because that will bring you at par to the minimum wage. Then there should be 10% over and above the minimum wage. If you add 10% to that 30-something, it pushes you to 40 plus. And people think that we are just asking for percentage increase with no reason. There are bases for that. If government should even bring our minimum base pay at par with the minimum wage, it's already 31% plus. Plus the 10%, 40 plus. And you are already enjoying a COLA of 15%. You add it. there is a relativity of 1.7 that has not been applied for more than since the inception of this base pay. So these are some of the things you need to know before you talk about you are becoming insensitive and this and that and that. Nobody is holding a gun at the head of anybody. No way. We are only negotiating.
So in the last meeting, you also spoke about inflation. Yeah. But the inflation numbers that we have now, it seems that inflation is slowing down. Are you hoping to double down?
Are you sure that it's slowing down?
I mean, they are hoping that because the CD to dollar rate has decreased from November to now, in January.
Hope? No. Let us be factual. Are you talking about hope or facts? What is the inflation today? Inflation today is 50.4. Yeah, so from 40-something, 50, and now it's 0.4. So it's going up. It's never coming down. That is what you need to know. Yeah.
So you are not willing to come down any further from 58?
Oh, that one, when we get to the negotiating table, you'll negotiate.
But this will be the second time that government has failed to also give you a figure at least to work with.
The meeting did not start at all. I won't mince word. We didn't start the meeting at all due to not forming a quorum.
The government side.
But we hope that when we meet again, we will bring this negotiation to a close. If government is ready, we are also ready.
Now, clarification, quorum on whose side? Your side or government?
Our side, both sides.
Your people are not interested in following this conversation anymore?
No, what I'm saying, today's the short of quorum. No, the short of quorum is for the government. As for the labor, you are fully prepared.
Well, now, some members of parliament from the New Patriotic Party have restarted their campaign to get President Akufo-Addo to sack Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Subin MP Eugene Bawku tells JoyNews they will hold President Akufo-Addo to his promise to remove the minister after the budget and IMF talks. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
The other leg of the NPP MP's deal with the president is to allow the minister see through the IMF talks. The MPs are now waiting for President Akufo-Addo to keep his part of the bargain.
The minister had that we have a finance minister who came to this house and met us the caucus and said, look, you know what? I won't do IMF. I will not do IMF. Well, I think it's very degrading for a country like ours. But I have two revenue streams. Help me make it a reality that will not make us go to IMF.
And you fought tooth and nail to give him that?
Yes, you were here. Look at how we fought for him to pass the e-levy. Bill is not an act. These are major policy failures that in any civilized democracy, Ken Ofori-Atta will not stand on his feet. Why are we entertaining such nonsense? Excuse my French. Why are we? What have we got against him as a person?
Since 80 of these NPP MPs took this unprecedented step, some of them have said their seats in parliament have been threatened. Eugene Bawku says they are not bothered by such threats. Tamale North MP Alassane Suhini says President Akufo-Addo will go after those MPs individually.
I believe that many of them will suffer the consequences, especially during their primaries. Because one, the President Akufo-Addo has shown since he became president, and even before that, when he was leader of the NPP, that he's an unforgiving person. And so you go against him and he fights you to the floor. And so they are going to contend with their, open aggression.
The Subin MP did not mince words. He and his colleagues are well aware of the threat, but are unfazed.
Nobody made me an MP. Akufo-Addo did not make me an MP. You understand? God made me an MP. I was elected as Akufo-Addo was elected. So nobody should dare threaten anybody. When you veer into that realm, you even muddy the waters the more. So they shouldn't bring these threats and what have you. If you want to come and sit me, come to Subin and sit me. Nobody made me an MPO. The good people of Subin made me an MP. I contested a primary like Akufo-Addo contested a primary to become president. The fact that you have taken this position doesn't mean that it's directly directed at President Akufo-Addo. No. We are talking about the supreme interest of the NPP. And no individual, quote me, is bigger than this party. Nobody, including me, including Akufo-Addo, including all the MPs. We are serving the tradition, the MPP tradition. We don't have to agree all the time. We don't have to agree all the time. Otherwise, we'll be seen as robots. There are certain times we will go our separate ways. The decision we have taken as MPs is to ensure that who I have served loyally and faithfully.
What our sources within the NPP tell us is that what Eugene Boakye entry has been telling us represents the general feeling within the NPP majority caucus here in Parliament that was championed by the minority in Parliament. But politically, he is still being hounded by members of his own party who are after him to leave the finance ministry. It's up to the president and Parliament. Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Let's stay in Parliament because Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu is blaming Parliament for Ghana's current economic difficulties. He says the crisis is due to excessive borrowing by successive governments, particularly this government. Speaking during a core leadership conference organized by the Ministry for Parliamentary Affairs, Haruna Iddrisu argued that Parliament had been negligent in its oversight responsibility and had allowed almost all loans without proper scrutiny.
Today, Ghana has an economic crisis, a crisis which is only similar to what pertained in the country in 1983. How did we get there? Excessive borrowing. Who ought to have checked government not to borrow or overborrow? The Parliament of Ghana. So Parliament must accept some blame and some responsibility in not keeping the executive to check. The consequences of excessive borrowing is now being felt by all of us when you hear an animal called a debt exchange initiative. It is affecting businesses, it's affecting public enterprises because they cannot run well, it's affecting the private sector. So Parliament's role as defender of the people's interests is lost. So how did we get there? How come that we couldn't anticipate it? Article 181, it is only Parliament that approves the terms and conditions of a loan. So if we borrowed and now we have exceeded 100% of GDP, how did it happen? And a typical example of the intense partisanship I spoke about, how could a Sino-Hydro loan get approval from Ghana's Parliament if Ghana's Parliament was to sit right? You have government arguing that Sino-Hydro, I'm doing battle of bauxite, when the road to the bauxite site is not even constructed. The Parliament of Ghana ought, in the defense of the people's interests, ought to have rejected that because the battle has failed. Sino-Hydro is due for payment. You don't have the bauxite. Parliament has reduced itself to a clearinghouse for executive embarrassment. When the executive brings something, then all of us, and I'm not talking about just an if or some Parliament, when you can talk of CNTI loan, you can talk of STS loan, they bring something to Parliament, we are not ready to scrutinize it and tell them in the face that this is not good enough for the country.
Now, a 20-year-old resident of Fumbisi in the Upper East region, Ebenezer Adajavuk, is passionate about becoming a nurse. Unfortunately, that dream looks hazy. The principal of the Bolgatanga Nursing Training College asked him to reconsider his decision and become a teacher instead because he limps. This has left him devastated. The Bolgatanga Nursing School confirmed asking Ebenezer to consider teaching, but said the advice was devoid of malice and discrimination.
Ebenezer Adajavuk lives in Fumbisi, a small community in the Upper East region. He's always wanted to be a nurse. After successfully completing senior high school, he applied to the Bolgatanga Nursing Training College to kickstart that dream. But his joy was cut short because the school said his limping condition is a problem.
It was time for him to now, the principal, to print my admission letter for me. And then he said, I have to come back with either my parents or anybody. In his own words, he said that the way he was talking, he was saying that it is a help that he's giving to me and advice that it is not discrimination, but he looks where that will help me, and looking at things the way if I want to work for the nursing, I can't do that. People in nursing field at the end, some of them come out with having pins, backbone pins and other pins. So for me to go and stand, what he was saying that for the standing side that he was saying that I can't do. That was what he was saying. Then if only the help he wants to give me is that maybe he will find my money, then if only I want, I'll go to the teaching field. Because that place, even if I go that, if I teach for a while, I can even sit if I don't want to.
Benjamin is amazed that the interview panel did not reject him because of this limping condition.
After they interviewed, we came back, so we were there, then I was visiting my portal, then later I found out that they gave me temporary admission. So when I gained the admission, in the admission letter, they said we should go to the bank and pay the money, 2,000 to the bank.
The advice for him to give up on his dreams and chase another haunts him and gives him sleepless nights.
I feel it badly, and sometimes I always think about it. For me to become what I want to become, and at this age they are telling me that I cannot become, I feel it badly. Sometimes I feel like weeping, because if I sit alone, I always think about it. So now what will I do again? So I feel it badly. Inside me and how I work, I know that yeah, this work, I can do it with the passion and the zeal. So I want to tell him that he shouldn't just, it is not that the way he looks at things, that's how it is. But things are not that way. It is beyond that. So if only he have the opportunity to give me a try in the field, I'll be very happy with him.
Principal of the Bolgatanga Nursing Training College told JoyNews he advised Ebenezer and his family to consider teaching instead of nursing. He insists his counsel was devoid of prejudice and malice, and there is hope for Ebenezer, who remains eligible for nursing school. Jojo Kobna, JoyNews.
From that sad story, now the Food and Drugs Authority has impounded 4 cartons and 27 packs of expired food. This follows an alert indicating the Pavo and AIA Woody brands of frozen food were contaminated. The products, which were linked to an outbreak of listeriosis in Italy, were found in the market in Ho in the Volta region. Correspondent Fred Kwame-Asari now reports.
Pavo sausages were reported to have caused a listeriosis outbreak in Italy earlier in the year. According to reports, some 60 people were reported ill, while 3 deaths were confirmed during the outbreak. The products were spotted in a frozen food shop in Ho during surveillance by the Volta Regional Directorate of the Food and Drugs Authority. Gordon Akurugu is the FDA Regional Director.
Unfortunately, for our part, we identify a few of the sausages, the whole country in Volta region. About 4 of the cartons were left, which we detained and then pending disposal today, which we want to do. All what we want the general public to know is to ensure that we don't buy food this festive period that will harm our health, that will give us illness.
In a related development, border security agencies impounded 2250 kg bags of lead-contaminated Indian-produced Simba rice at the Aflau border. The red-flagged products were identified during duty processing at the customs unit in November. The importers, upon interrogation, said that they bought the product on the Togolese market at cheap prices to be retailed in Ghana.
We had an alert from National Security concerning a rice, Simba rice, coming from India. And the alert was issued because of the health-related complications that has to do with the rice. And the rice was contaminated with lead. And as we all know, lead effect it can damage the brain, it can affect the nervous system, and possibly even death. And then we want the general public to know this is a festive period, and one of the key food products that we eat is rice. So we want the general public, especially those who like eating rice, to be aware of this Simba rice coming from India. We can't rule out that this rice can get its way to our various markets because of the porous nature of our rules, especially our borders. We have unapproved route, but I'm very much sure that the approved rules will curtail like what we have done in our flour.
All the impounded products will be disposed of duly. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
Now, Cosmos Energy has handed over a refurbished health facility to the Savelugu School for the Deaf in the northern region. The facility comes with 2 wards, consulting room with full sets of medical equipment, and more. This is to help offer quality healthcare to the students. It is also to ease the challenges of getting interpreters to hospitals anytime the children are sick. Martin Abugri has the rest of the story.
The Savelugu School for the Deaf, which was established in 1978, is riddled with numerous challenges, including dilapidated classrooms, dormitories, the lack of ICT center, assembly hall, among other challenges. It is against this backdrop that Cosmos Energy came in to help. Speaking at a short ceremony to hand over the facility, the director of New Ventures, Cosmos Energy, Apiache, said the company has supported 4 schools with special needs, including Savelugu School for the Deaf. He said the facility will not only serve as a treatment center, but also an isolation center in the event of any outbreak of infectious diseases.
So we are here today to hand back to you this facility which you kindly permitted us to improve. So we've renovated it and stocked it up with essential medical supplies so that children who fall ill could be treated here, and those who need to be isolated from their colleagues to prevent the spread of any communicable or infectious disease could be separated and treated so that they could be well and reintegrated back to the school system.
The assistant headmistress of the school, Fozia Gona, said the school continues to excel in academics and other fields in the municipality. She highlighted challenges facing the school.
Savelugu School for the Deaf, since its inception, has dropped a number of successes. We have competed favorably with our hearing counterparts in various spheres of life. That is from sports competitions to art competitions and to the BEC. Has to do with an assembly hall. Most of the times, all our entertainment takes place at the dining board. Another challenge that is dear to our heart is a vocational center, modern vocational center. This center will equip our pupils with the necessary skills that will enable them live independent life.
The municipal chief executive for the area, Ajia Aisha Tuseidu, on her part, commended Cosmos for coming to the aid of the school and appealed for more support.
We are very grateful to you for taking up this very life-saving intervention, because it's something that has come to stay for us. Prior to this, deaf people had difficulty in accessing healthcare because of the distance to the general hospital and difficulty in communication.
And with that story, it's a wrap for the news, but stay with us. Up next, we dig into the papers. News review. And here we are, time now to dig into the stack of papers we have here this morning. And joining us, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, director as well for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, Wednesday is here again. I was waiting to see how you would respond.
Yes.
Anyway, it's a beautiful day. I hope you're well.
I'm very well, very well.
We bless the Lord. Let's start the conversation from two angles that I'd like to run by you. Debt exchange and what the TUC is saying. They are insistent that they don't want government to do this. They say, if you've created a mess, don't punish us for the mess that you have created. And there have been some attempts at engagement. Yesterday, a quorum wasn't met on government side. And so that engagement actually was stillborn. There's also the issue in Parliament of the budget for the National Cathedral being jettisoned, thrown away, rejected. I'm sure you followed that story and how indeed we've heard that the committee, interestingly, they usually don't vote on these matters, but they had to vote twice. And each time they rejected the 80 million Ghana cedis allotted for the National Cathedral. In recent times, we heard Mr. President say that, look, the National Cathedral will be a way of thanking God for having saved us from civil war. What do you make of it?
I will start with the debt exchange. All right. I supported the TUC because here you are. You know, salary levels in this country, very low, and workers are really struggling. And then you come to the issue of pension when people have invested their money into bonds and government papers so as to take care of them when you are in pension and all that. And then you mismanage the economy to the extent that you now come to them saying that, look, the money you have put there, you can't have anything. 2023. You go home with nothing, and then you extend some to 5 years, 6 years. It doesn't make sense. It's what you lawyers call as what double jeopardy, isn't it? Yeah, it's a double pain. And why? And some of these things people would obviously talk about it. So I think the position by TUC I support, and it's the right position, and that's so that going forward, anybody given the power to manage the economy, you'll be very careful. They will not budge. And I support that. The issue about cathedral, I mean, it breaks my heart that it appears to me that we are very insensitive to the plight of everybody in this country. Here you are, we are struggling to live, to make ends meet. And there is a project that the president wants to, undertake to honor God. No qualms about that, fine. But the timing is wrong. Absolutely wrong. We need resources to manage a few things. And here you are. We are building cathedral. I am happy that Parliament has shown the way, all right, that they really protect the public purse. This morning I listened to your network, and then Mr. Haruna Idiso saying that he's accusing Parliament, which he's a member of, that they have not played their oversight role very well, that they have allowed borrowing to affect the economic fortunes of this country. And I'm happy with that sincerity on his part, all right? Because the what the parliamentarians have done with regard to the cathedral, the 80 million, I support that. It must be thrown away so that that money could be used for something else. What is even surprising was the fact that here you are, they called I think the chief directors and those who matter in the ministry to come and explain how they are going to use the money and what they are going to use it for, the various stages and all that. They could not answer. That is an indictment on all of them there. That you have a budget and you can't defend the budget. You don't know what goes into it. Very sorry. So I'm happy that they rejected it. Let people, they'll notice be served that when people give you power, you are not on your own. That power is subject to limitation, and the limitation is coming from the people's representative. And I'm happy they are discharging their duties very well.
Maybe the final issue I want to, since we're talking about Parliament, you know, the Subin MP, Wachi actually, has also reiterated the stance of the members of Parliament that, look, we want Ken Ofori-Atta gone. And in the strongest words possible. What triggered this? Apparently, some pushing and shoving is happening from the top, from the executive branch of government, pointing to the fact that, look, some of you you would be made to lose in your primaries, or we would find a way of making life difficult for you so you don't return to Parliament. And yesterday, some of these MPs represented or led by the Subin MP were very unhappy, and they took on their own leadership, saying that they were fighting for the soul of the party and not for anything else. But should it come to this, I listened to Dr. Amwakoba speak to the subject, and he basically said that the president was approaching this like a mafia boss in a vindictive manner, and that this could spell doom for the party, especially going into election 2024. As a political watcher, what do you see in there? If these...
There are a number of perspectives here,
right?
And I will, explain them. One is that I have no pain or no tears to shed with the MPs who are now crying. Why am I saying that? All right, they have been suffering from indecision. In one breath, they want the minister out. In another, they want to listen to the president for the minister to finish all his business and then come in. When you take a decision and then you keep on moving backwards and forwards, this is the results. All right, nobody takes you seriously, and then people believe that you even have lost credibility. All right, and that is what is happening to them. For me, I don't take them seriously at all. I know, and from looking at the events, I want to believe sincerely that they don't mean what they say, and that it is just a political gimmick. It is not a real issue that they want the minister out or any minister out. No. On the other point,
but do you think they would just do this, Doc, just for as a mere show to pay lip service to the people? Because, mind you, some of those who are saying this, and they say the system is vindictive. So why would they stick their necks out, risk their necks, risk losing their seats over what? A show?
Yeah, but the issue is that if you were that serious, they would have carried the decision to its logical conclusion. One way was to join the minority to pass the votes of censure.
But Doc, the vote of censure would have, the buck stops with the president. He has to assent to it.
Yeah, I know. Article 82.5 is a limitation.
Right,
on the process. I agree. But if they have added their voice to get majority and the president finally decided not to do, they would have been saved from their constituency, from all the attacks and all that. Yeah, that they did their bit. But except that Article 82.5 was a limitation on them. All right. They did not do that last minute. They chicken out. So who are you blaming? So for me, I believe that on that score, they inflicted the pain to themselves, and then they must bury their own, carry their own cross. The issue about the part of the issue is that they are unfair to the president too. You talk to the president said, give me time, let the gentleman finish his work in Parliament and IMF negotiations. We are not done with the IMF thing, and then you are on the neck of the president. You are unfair. I mean, is that what the agreement you reach? I mean, for me, it's unfair treatment to the president. And that is why I'm not surprised that people also come at you like that. That look, we reach an agreement. And then you are, the public said, oh, no, you have even betrayed us. I said, no, I want to listen to our leader. And in no time, you turn around and you are on the neck of the president. That's unfair. And when you look at it, that is it. And then the third aspect of it is that they have no power to change any minister, all right? Not even parliament. You see the limitation, 82-5. So even if parliament, you get 2/3 majority, unless the president decides to change anybody, you cannot change. So all that they are saying that will change will force that, I want to call their bluff. That if they have that capacity, they have that power, they should do it for us to see. But I can tell you that they cannot do anything unless the president decides to change anybody, all right? But having said all that, I know as a student of democracy and political science, I know that there's a political cost to this, to the party, to the individual MPs, all right? The threat about they losing their seat and all that is one thing. Another one goes to the whole party in general, that yes, if you have ministers who are not performing and you still want to maintain them, well, they will not deliver. And at the end of the day, remember that you need results. You need your legacy to be there. You need your records to stand on and campaign. What is it that they are going to stand on to campaign if the ministers fail to perform? All right. And that is the lesson for them. I believe that it is about time they took time to reflect on these things and then do the needful to arrest the situation. Otherwise, the cost to them will be too much when it comes to 2024.
Well, let's get into the papers now. The Daily Graphic, not keeping government in check, like has been mentioned briefly. Blame Parliament, Haruna Idrisu admits, and the minority leader in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu, has said Parliament must accept some blame and responsibility for not keeping the executive arm of government in check in the performance of its functions, including excessive borrowing. He said it was the responsibility of Parliament to have checked the excessive borrowing by the government, asking, how did we get here? Parliament's role as the defender of the people's interest is lost, he said. He made the admission yesterday during a roundtable with the core leadership of Parliament on harnessing the dividends of democracy over the last 30 years, organized by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Democratic dividends refer to the benefits that a democratic system can provide for a society. Now, the discussion was on the theme, Parliament and the harnessing of democratic dividends, assignment. What for you, since we've started talking about it, what for you are the lessons we should pick from this discourse, and especially what the minority leader says? Are there any practical bits we can pick from here and adhere to prevent same from happening in future?
There are a lot we can learn from it. One is the fact that, and I like, as I've already alluded to, I like the honest admission on the part of minority leader that they did not do enough. And this has brought us where we are now. So I'm happy they have acknowledged their own faults and they admit to it. That I have no problem. But going forward, I want them to walk the talk. The lesson here is that it's not only talking about it, but doing something about it. Because one of the rules of Parliament is that you are a representation of the people. You represent the interest, the opinion, the aspiration of the people. All right, you speak their language. You cry for them. You talk on their behalf. Remember, the larger society, they are vulnerable, they are poor, they are needy people. You are the mouthpiece of those people. So when you leave them down, you let them down, then there's a problem. There's a problem. So they need to walk their talk and remember that if they don't play their oversight responsibility role, which is another function of Parliament, effectively, at the end of the day, they are going to cause pain to people unnecessarily. Look at the borrowing that they have allowed to go on. Now today, we are here, everybody suffering. Some of them are suffering the more because people come to them as leaders of their society and all that. They are feeling the pinch. So I believe that they must be careful about their role and then perform them very well. Once they do that, all of us will come home and smile. But if they decide to pay lip service to all these things, the effect will be albatross around the neck of everybody. Look at how we started having economic problems and all that. The majority, everybody is talking, is trying to find a way out of the problem and want to help our country. all right? But if you have done your bit and done it very well, I am sure that you'll be able to ameliorate some of these problems, and then everybody will come home in peace. I think going forward, they have to look at these things critically and then act as reps of the people.
Let's get into some other stories quickly. On page 20, kidnappers of Canadian girls jailed 40 years. And it took 3 years, but justice was finally served yesterday when the 4 young men accused of kidnapping 2 Canadian girls in an uncompleted building in Kumasi were found guilty and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment each. It was quite a dramatic scene at the Criminal Division of the High Court in Accra when, in a show of remorse by the convicts, one of them went down on his knees to apologize to the families of the victims. The ruling was also given in an atmosphere of remorse as the trial judge, Justice Lydia Osei-Mafo, and the defense counsel took turns to apologize to the victims on behalf of the state. You remember the story?
I do.
Surely.
I do.
But let me get into some other stories quickly so you can put all of them together. Release full budgetary allocation for Ministry of Defense. Speaker of Parliament urges Finance Ministry. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana, Kingsford Bagbin, has urged the Ministry of Finance to release in full the budget estimate Parliament has approved for the Ministry of Defense to enable the security agencies to discharge their mandate. He said the practice of the Ministry of Finance not releasing all the budgetary allocation for the Defense Ministry did not augur well for the safety and security of the individual and community, as well as the stability of the country, which could not be toyed with. Today, I'm seeing quite some errors in the Daily Graphic. Augur is spelled wrongly and toyed with is spelled toiled with. Editor of the Daily Graphic, I'm not being mischievous, but we look up to you, so let's do better. Quick reflection on these two stories, Doc. So the first one, the kidnappers, and the second one, why this is interesting. You know, our president, and you can tell me what you think about his positioning, talking about the Burkinabe situation and the Wagner group, and some say that was a gaffe. But in respect of the turmoil in the sub-region, how do you feel on the back of this call by the Speaker of Parliament that we're starving our security ministries of the necessary resources?
Yeah, when you look at that story, I don't get it. Why is it that you don't want to release all the money that have been approved by Parliament to the ministry to be able to do their work effectively? It doesn't sit well with me, because once the money has been approved, it should go to the appropriate quarters for use, all right? More so when you are talking about security of the country, all right? We are surrounded by, terrorist groups and whatnot. So the little you can do is to arm the security with resources so that they can work. So I support the Speaker, his call that the money must be released in full, so that the officers will keep everybody safe and alive.
Just to add to that before you go to the other issue. So quoting him, he says, "It is sad when I really read and saw that approximately 81% of the budget on goods and services had not been released to the Ministry of Defense. That means only a paltry 19% has been released. How does the ministry work? The budget, though, is 3.742 billion Ghana cedis. So you can do the math. Over to you.
I think we don't have to waste time at all, because about 19% of the whole budget is given to them. What do you expect them to do? And yet you want results. That's unfair. And by their work, the nature of their work, they don't talk much in public to complain for everybody to know. So I'm happy that the Speaker himself has seen it and has voiced this thing out. I support that. They should release the money in no time. And then take it out. If they don't have the money, they should take the cathedral money and give it to the security people to protect us. The cathedral cannot protect anybody. There is nobody who is dying that we need the cathedral to protect. We need the people alive. So the security people must be given their money. Now to the Tardy girls issue. A very sad story. That breaks my heart.
So no, this one is the Canadian.
Sorry, the Canadian, girls, right. The Canadian story. The Canadian story. We followed, and we realized that very, very sad. One is we're going to dent the image of this country, all right? And then you are talking about human beings involved who have come here to do their own business and all that. And people will, abduct them and go and handle them and all that. Very, very, very unfair. I mean, inhuman. So I'm happy with the verdict. And then I'm also more happy about the position of the judge, apologizing to the families of those people and all that. That is a good thing. I commend the judge for that. And then the sentence also tells us that the state will not countenance such acts in the state at all. That anybody who crosses the line, we walk you through the full rigor of the law, and then whatever sanction that is given to you will be given to you. So I applaud the court. I also applaud the Canadian Embassy, who also, Canadian High Commission, who also played their part in this process to bring us here. I am happy, but Ghanaians should, be well alert so that whatever, anything we see, we inform the security people. It is part of our duty, a civic duty, of course, to give information to the security so that they can act on these things promptly.
I want you to reflect on some stories, not this one though, but I want to put it out there because it's also quite an enterprise. Network promotes Kwewu Summit at US-Africa Leaders Meeting. Pictured there, President Akufo-Addo and Idris Elba. Interestingly, I was watching a movie of his just about 2 days ago. A renowned actor, and they are expected to participate in the Kwewu Summit in January next year. Okay, so from there, two interesting stories. Will recapture power in 2024. Fifi Kwete, new General Secretary of the NDC. And on page 17, Minority Caucus congratulates NDC National Executive. The final bit to you from the Daily Graphic. I'd like to find out, since we've not spoken on it, what do you think of the new crop of leaders that the NDC has elected? From Esiedun Ketia, did you expect him to win? I think you shared your thoughts on that. To Fifi Kwete, to Joseph Yamin, to Basentale, to all of those, the retention of Dr. Hannah Bissu, to Pablo, who has been sworn in contrary to what the court said. I mean, what do you make of their new leadership? Can they go toe-to-toe with the MPP and recapture power in 2024?
Oh, yes. These are people who have lived all their life in politics. They are people who are experienced. They are people with strategy. And they are people who know what to do at each point in time. They are fearless, bold, and have what it takes to restore power. My advice to them is that, yes, much as they are poised for action, they should not fold their arms and believe in and deceive themselves into believing that when they don't act and act extremely well, they are going to break the eight, because no political party wants to stay in opposition. The basic function of every political party or aim is to win power and form the next government. NPP is telling you that they want to break the eight, so they need to put their house in order to be able to work and work effectively. If you look at the leaders they've paraded and who won the day for them, they are people who have seen it all. Take, for instance, the Esiedun Ketia. He has seen it all in terms of his role as an MP. He was an MP. He became a minister.
Yes.
And then at a point in time, he also worked with a party as a party person. All right. In terms of experience,
if you look at his experience, just to chip in, he spent about 30 years of his life working for the party.
Yes. He started off as an MP, Wenchi, when I was a reporter in Parliament. He was also, he became a deputy minister. And then he also went to the party to work as the CEO of the party for 17 years. He has seen it all. The experience, he has a lot. If you look at Fifi Kwete has done marvelously well for his party, all right, as a propaganda secretary, that's a party work, as an MP, that is for Parliament, and then also as a minister, all right. He is one of the, very bold, fearless, and very courageous gentlemen who have their party at heart at all time. Yamin, another fantastic guy who has also worked extremely well for his party, and then they are in for action. If you look at all of them, in terms of, the ability to capture power, I think they have what it takes. All right, because they have strategy. You can never win any election without meaningful strategy. They have, all right. if you look at messaging, just the competition, you saw the messages that were churned out, all right? Message that resonate with the people at the grassroots within the party, all right? And they know how to excite people into action, right? So that is there. Yamin also has those qualities and all that. Look at the women's group and the rest of them. Talking about Sami Jenfi, a fantastic young man with the courage, with the zeal, the tenacity and all that. So I believe they have a team, but it is not enough to have the team. But you need to get the basics right and then be prepared and be determined to win power. Otherwise, all the teams you can put in the mercies, assemble all of them. But if you don't have the strategy, the resource, the message, the manifesto, and the rest of them, I'm afraid you work in vain. And I'm sure they are not oblivious of this fact.
Let's take a quick look at the Daily Guide. And in there on page 6, we'll beat Mosquito's team. That's Nana B of the NPP. I guess time will tell. But in other stories, you look at page 5, just a quick look at some international stories I've been following. January 6th committee refers Trump to DOJ on 4 criminal charges. And it appears the Justice Department will have to look deeper into that. And it also appears Trump is going to be in hot waters. Interesting times, especially as in terms of polling, he goes toe-to-toe with DeSantis from his own party, but it appears his popularity is not as strong as he would want it. Germany returns looted treasures to Nigeria. I'm talking about the Benin bronzes. But in other stories, the two I want us to focus on, I'm open to criticism. The president, Akufo-Addo, says he is not in any way averse to criticism. Rather, he takes it in good faith since it helps him make informed decisions. He has therefore noted that persons who criticize him and his government only bring different perspectives to the decisions, actions, and inactions of his administration, which in the long run have helped to shape the decisions of government. My question for you, is that the feeling you get on the back of some of what the people have said? The e-levy, the National Cathedral, among others, to which the president has remained adamant. Then on page 6, 7 killed in fresh Bawku clashes. And reports coming from Bawku in the Upper East region indicate the renewed ethnic clashes between Kusasis and Mampusis have claimed the lives of 7 people. This follows the alleged killing of an aged man at Natinga on Saturday, December 17, 2022, which resulted in sporadic gunshots, leaving 5 persons dead. Quick reactions to these two stories. Hello, Doc. We may have lost Dr. Kwame Asasante. We'll try to get him back and get his reactions to those two important stories. The president saying he's open to criticism, and the other one having to do with, let me just cross-check, that one on page 6, having to do with the Bawku situation. When we get him, we'll get into that. The final newspaper, locally produced safari tissues hit market to limit $100 million spent on imports. And Dr. John Kuma there with Dolores Frimpong Manso. I see Kwame Sefakai, among others, in that shot. And I've seen some posters, banners of it in town as well. Of course, that also being linked to our drive to be self-sufficient and not import so much. So government's agenda of revisiting and strengthening the country's import substitution policies has been given a big boost with the launch of locally produced safari tissues. Ghana spends some $100 million annually to import toilet rolls and tissue, with attendant negative impact on cedi depreciation, job creation, and taxes. Therefore, indigenous company Seabeige Ghana Limited, producers of safari tissues, commencement of production is timely and a big push for the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. I support this. I just hope that, well, it's a private enterprise, so hopefully, though government is giving its support, hopefully this will stand the test of time and not just be another one that we talk about and sweep under the carpet. Galamsey fight. Lands Minister courts support of Asanteman Queen Mothers. 4 persons jailed for 10 years each for kidnapping Canadian girls. And Eurobond holders constitute committee to engage Ghana on debt restructuring. A quick look at that story. So international holders of Ghana's Eurobonds have constituted bondholder creditors committee in response to Ghana's announcement suspending certain categories of external debt pending an orderly restructuring of the affected obligations. It includes Eurobonds, commercial loans, and most bilateral debt. Ghana's Eurobonds Committee is representative of a diverse group of institutional investors, including mutual funds, asset managers, insurance firms, hedge funds, and family offices. The Chronicle newspaper this morning: minority vote against National Cathedral budget. Safari Tissues launched to delay unveiled as brand ambassador, and government courts Queen Mother's support to fight Galamsey. Also, Bright SHS adjudged a best private school. The publisher now, Ghanaian publisher, Lands Minister woos Queen Mothers to fight Galamsey. NMC chair queries Asiedun Ketia's PSB membership. And there's also Ghana Eurobond holders form committee to support debt restructuring. All of these stories that you have seen already. Daily Analyst all set for GJA dinner tonight. And there's also Get Fund releases money to contractors. The custodian, Ofoswampofo, salutes new NDC executives, and I salute him for that, for how he congratulated Asiedun Ketia. And he was very magnanimous, and that is the mark of good leadership. Parliament must take blame for economic crisis. That's according to Haruna Idrisu. And maize prices rise in northern Ghana. Neighbors pointed to. That story is on page 3. Quick look. So prices of maize are increasing at a staggering rate this year, at the cost of about 600 cedis per bag in northern Ghana, where the commodity is largely produced in the country. Consumers are worried that prices may hit unbearable levels early next year if drastic measures are not taken to reverse the trend. The rising cost of the cereal has been attributed to the poor yields due to high cost of fertilizer and a long drought during the crop season as a result of the impact of climate change. I find this interesting, especially considering that the Agric Ministry has been telling us about food sufficiency and maize, and we have a lot of it and all that. What is happening when it comes to these maize price rises? And then, just to wrap with Dr. Kwame Asasante, Republic Press, NDC Delegates Congress don't dare commit suicide. APAC tells Anyidoho. And there's also High Court bounces Opuni again. Doc, since you're back, just to wrap the conversation, maize prices skyrocketing in northern Ghana, contrary to what we've been told by the Agric Ministry. And there's also those two stories. I'm open to criticism. The president says so. Do you get the feeling he is open to criticism? And 7 killed in fresh Bawku clashes. 3 stories to play with.
Yeah, I'll start with the president one. He's open to criticisms. I don't believe that. Because some of these things, people have expressed concerns about some of his policies, programs, and all that. The president has been adamant. Take, for instance, the issue of even, e-levy. When they started the conversation, they wanted to put it at 1.75. People talk about it. It will not change. All right. We came to 1.5, and people said there's a need to change it. It will not work. The president didn't listen. And by extension, the government did not listen. The issue about the size of government. All right. We have said it time and again. That is too huge for a poor country such as Ghana, which is struggling to make ends meet. The president said we should wait for results. The president didn't listen. Look at the issue of ministers who are not performing. The president gives them excellent performance. And so when the president says he's open to criticisms, I don't take it with respect. I disagree with him vehemently.
Right.
Vehemently. Right. The issue about maize prices going up and all that, and it's contrary to the story that we received from the ministry. That disconnects. I think the ministry must fix that. Otherwise, it cuts a slur on their image that you are telling us something which is not the case on the ground. All the time I've been listening to the minister with rapt attention. He tells us, oh, my wife told me this and all that. I ask myself, Is it the wife who is doing all the survey at the ministry for us and all that? More often than not, the minister will come out with certain statements and you go to the field, it is to the contrary. Market women get angry with some of his comments and all that. I think that going forward, the ministry must look at these things and find a proper way of addressing it. And that if they don't have information, they should just keep quiet. If they have it, they share with us. And we want to be fed with what? Information that is the situation on the ground. That I can say, because the public has the right to know about the goings on within their system. And the last bit, if you can remind me, what is it?
Just briefly.
Bawku? Bawku, very, very unfortunate. We're still struggling to deal with the problem. I think that all of us must put our shoulders to the wheel and then help to deal with this problem. It's a worrying situation and it affects all of us. All right, we don't want any lives to be lost in any part of this country. Every life is important and we need to work at that.
Right.
So we will appeal to all those who are embroiled in that situation to soften their stand and give the state the opportunity to address this problem for all of us to breathe a sigh of relief. I believe that my people will be able to do that. I trust them and I respect them and I expect them to help us to deal with this problem once and for all.
Doc, Nagode, Akpe, thank you for joining us this morning. Dr. Kwame Asasante there, he's a political scientist, also director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Well, up next, we have sports for you. It's been amazing in Argentina as they have celebrated. The crowds barely able to catch a glimpse of their superstars. Well, sports is up next as we bring you the latest in that terrain. Do stay.
Good morning. AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Avla. A Slovak Belig is at the wheel of Accra House of Oak, and their run so far in the Ghana Premier League has been incredible. On the return of the competition after the FIFA World Cup, the Phobians secured a 1-0 win over Instructorman FC, courtesy of an oligo that came from Kwabena Obeng Jr.
This afternoon's encounter, Osman Imoro. He's an assistant lecturer and a librarian. He's going to handle the game for 90 minutes. We'll be supported by Stephen Balanguena and Isaac Asante on the lines. Our fourth official is Jacob Aduntera. Osman Ibrahim Imoro, I should say, would usher us into the first 45 minutes of the game. Swatreman are playing from right to left, and that's the chap, Stephen Dio. We're talking about him earlier on. Opportunity for Swatreman is a long one in. Richmond Ayi to the rescue. Here come an opportunity. Threaded into the 18-yard box. The header is on. Oh, Ayi had to stretch to his limits. Some good goalkeeping. Missed opportunity by the home side.
Yeah, it's an amazing move.
And he comes in again, Dio. And Ayi again, this time a firm grab. So, for Accra Hearts of Oak, Richard Ayi has been in some superb and fantastic form.
Yeah, the header here from Ofori. He thought he had scored, but what a save from Ayi to then again the delivery from the left side, another header, and just look at Ayi. Wonderful save.
Yeah, been on active duty. Sure will do his possible best to get the ball out. Here's Salifu Ibrahim with a corner kick. It's flicked on. Oh, across the face of goal. Fabian's in the shot. Oh, missing clearly the opportunity. This Swatreman under pressure.
Very unlucky. Atofok. Should have been the first goal. The delivery from Salifu. Not really dealt with and was hanging in there. Asante.
Accra Hearts of Oak have taken off Zachary. That was made in the second half. Faju goes down. And Accra Hearts of Oak are in the lead.
Yeah, calamitous mistake from the defense of Nswatreman. But we see how it started. Esau will pick the pass. And Hearts of Oak were building some momentum. Barefoot with the final ball here. You'd expect the goalkeeper to deal with it. He misses it completely. It's a blunder. And there, Kojobi Jr. just to walk the ball straight to the back of the net.
Nima sends it back, but that would be it. Nswatreman 0, Hearts of Oak 1.
And still on Accra Hearts of Oak, you might have noticed that in recent games, skipper of the team, Fatau Mohammed, has not been part of the playing body. He has revealed that management has communicated to him that his services are no longer required in the club.
Yeah, for now, I'm no more Hearts of Oak player because I have been told by the management that I can't work with them again. So for now, I'm no more Hearts of Oak player, but I'm still a Hearts of Oak player because my everything is still with Hearts of Oak. So until I collected my particulars before I would say that, okay, I'm no more Hearts of Oak player. Yeah, I don't think they give me any tangible reason because they just told me that the coach said he can't work with me.
The new coach, Matic?
Yeah, the new coach, Matic, that he can't work with me anymore. So which is, I understood because it's the job that we are doing, that is the nature of the job. You know, someone will come, someone will go. So if today it is Fatau Tena, who am I to say no? So it's part of the job that we are doing.
How is the feeling like?
Yeah, you know, we are all human. You feel sad because for you serving this club for so many years, then at the end of the day, maybe like, this is the way you people will end up with the relationship. It's very, very hurt and it's very, very disappointed. But like I said, no, the job that we are doing now, if you understand it, if this kind of things come on your way, you have to grab it in a good fit, then move out along with your life. So I'm still moving along with my life.
Have you regretted being at the club for the decade?
I never regretted. I never regretted for playing for Accra Hearts of Oak. Accra Hearts of Oak make me who I am today. Accra Hearts of Oak make Fatau that Ghanaians know Fatau that is standing here. So I will never sit somewhere and say I have regretted for playing Hearts of Oak. No.
What's the way forward for Fatau Mohammed?
Yeah, the way is a lot. It's huge because I haven't hung my boot yet. I'm still a small boy. So for now, I'm part of Hearts of Oak. I'm leaving Hearts of Oak doesn't mean that I'm leaving football. So I'll go and continue my profession somewhere else. But for now, I don't think I have any club that this is the club that Fatau is going until I take over my everything from Hearts of Oak. Before anyone that comes Fatau's way, then Fatau is ready to receive anyone.
But are there offers on the table?
Yeah, for now, no. Because for now, no. Things are not yet published that Fatau is free now. So for now, they no.
French football authorities have banned Ghana defender Alexander Djiku for 1 match for breaching betting regulations in the 2020-21 season. This means he will miss Strasbourg's first game against Paris Saint-Germain after the World Cup break on December 28. There's more in the following report.
28-year-old is among 5 Ligue 1 players who have received various punishments for their involvement in betting. The other players banned are Auxerre goalkeeper Donovan Leon, Ivan Cardona of Brest, and Montpellier Sancha Delahaye. Cameroonian Jean-Charles Castellotto has been handed a 4-match ban. The body governing the major leagues in France said in a statement, quote, "These offences are committed even though, together, the LFP and the UNFP, the Players Union, conduct awareness or information campaigns with clubs on a daily basis." The Commission recalls that the actors of competitions organized by the FFP or the LFP, including players, coaches, leaders of professional football clubs, are generally prohibited from betting online or in physical networks on all football competitions, whether national or foreign.
Let's talk about the Ghana Olympic Committee vice presidential election that took place over the weekend, and Bawku Afajino, who is the president of the Table Tennis Federation, he has been voted vice president of the Ghana Olympic Committee. The Ghana Table president replaces Paul Acho, who died earlier this year.
Earlier that there were 4 things that I think is very paramount for the GOC, and it's number 1 is the passion, our energy, the food that keeps us going. Number 2 is the people and how everything connects back to the people and the growth and the development of sports and this country. Number 3, you listen to the discussions, you realize that governance and principles are very important, and we are looking at embedding that and making that define how the GOC works and functions, because at the end of the day we need to be setting the path and we need to be setting the standards for the growth and blossoming of sports in Ghana. And so I'm very happy about what we've seen here today, and I'm particularly excited about the spirit, about the energy. A lot of people here sacrifice so much and give so much of themselves to sports, and it's I'm sure that the biggest reward you can ever get is to see your handiwork grow and blossom and become something very useful to the good people of Ghana. My humble contribution as a member of the team is to do my little contribution so that the sense of oneness, the Olympic spirit becomes very manifest in everything that we do. And also being able to support the team and support my president and the rest of the executive to ensure that we are able to uplift sports in this country. I mean, the thing about sports is that when sports is good, it sets the country on a high. It charges the emotions and the sense of the sense of goodness, you know, in the country, and that's very important for us. I mean, you saw what happened at the World Cup, you see what happened at the Olympics. Anytime Ghana is doing well, we all feel so proud. Our sense of identity goes up, and we want to see this becoming a pathway for a lot of young men and women in this country. We want people to believe that sports provides an option for you to be the best that you can be, and we want people to take that encouragement and apply it to all areas of their lives, that we shouldn't settle for good when best is available, and that is one thing sports teaches us.
Also, Argentina returned to Buenos Aires to celebrate their World Cup win, and Argentines showed out. Millions of fans packed the streets of the South American capital city on what was declared a national holiday to follow the soccer team on its 50-mile victory parade. Messi and others rode on an open-air bus that pushed its way through crowds of excited fans. The bus parade had to be abandoned as the heroes were evacuated onto helicopters due to safety fears. Reports suggested that Lionel Messi and his teammates received a hero's welcome from more than 5 million adoring fans at a parade held to celebrate the success of the team at the FIFA World Cup. Argentina won the FIFA World Cup for a 3rd time following their 4-2 penalty victory over France on Sunday at the Lusail Stadium in Doha. The game had ended 3-3 in regulation time before it was forced into extra time, and Lionel Messi and his teammates finally laid their hands on that elusive World Cup trophy. And this is our wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. We appreciate your company. The show continues right after this.
It's some 34 minutes off the top of the hour. Thank you for staying with us. And at this juncture on the show, we kickstart our big stories. We have a one-on-one conversation this morning with Andrew Ejapa Mercer. He is Deputy Minister for Energy, Member of Parliament for 2nd D. And what I love about this gentleman, he frees his mind. He says it as he thinks it. I disagree with him a lot of the time, but I love the fact that when he has an opinion, he shares it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Andrew Ejapa Mercer as we talk everything related to energy and many other outstanding matters. I don't want to give him a fair advantage and let him know some of the areas I'll be taking him into. I'll be taking him into deep waters at a point. Andrew,
because he didn't give me any subject matter for
so, you know,
it's going to be a large.
Oh no. Energy.
Good morning. It's always good to see you.
It's good to have you. It's been a while.
Yeah,
what has Andre Jaffa-Mensah been up to? I've seen you here and there, on a few beats in Parliament, but what have you been up to?
Well, let me say good morning to our cherished viewers this morning, and even before we commence the engagement, wish all of us Merry Christmas, and hopefully a prosperous 2023. Obviously, 2022 has been a difficult year for all of us as a nation. Our economy hasn't performed optimally as we all had expected, arising mainly out of issues that are external, of course, some internal. But where we are, and the government has had to take difficult decisions to try and bring the economy back on stream. And I'm hopeful that with the plans that have been rolled out under the Ghana Cares program and the COVID revitalization economic plan that the Ministry of Finance is working with IMF to implement, we'll see some positive signs next year. It's already started. We've seen some appreciation in the city. Fuel prices have largely come down.
It's been quite an appreciation of the cedi. Though I think, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, it lost about 8%. Yes, but it's been amazing, for lack of a better word.
For me, the most important thing is that we go back to the era of stability. So businesses can plan. People can plan their lives around knowing that, it won't be,
fluctuating too often
in the manner that it did, sometime in the course of the year. But Merry Christmas. Like I said, above all, we have life. So we thank the good Lord himself for his abiding mercies.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. I don't know whether we'll get to meet or speak to each other before the New Year. So I'm adding it in case we don't.
And I wish you the same.
Great. So you started on the trajectory of some of the gains we've made. We'll get to some others, but even staying on the currency bit, later I'll go back to your constituency because I actually wanted to start the conversation off from there. But some have also said that there are factors, causing this at this time of year. Remittances, end of year, not too much being bought, so it will not pressure our cedi in terms of foreign currency. And the people have said, there are a number of factors. People have said that the real test will be in the first quarter of next year, when we know that, from January, you always see the cedi struggling. It's coughing, spasming, and all of that. From January to March, if we're able to peg it at a certain rate and it stabilizes, then we can say, okay, at least we have some control over that. I know with the fuel prices, they are also going down. They've gone down by quite a lot. I'm looking forward to purchasing fuel this week because formerly, in fact, the last week when I bought it, it was still pretty high. But I know there have been some decrements, so I'm looking forward to that. We know that the bulk oil, the importers,
that's right.
I hear now they are able to access a lot more funding, up to about 80%, because at a point it was far lower than that. So some gains have been made, but inflation is still, in fact, that is a concern for me because it shot from, I think, 43 point something to now 50.3. And that was a jump. It's been increasing marginally, but the one from October to November was not healthy. All of these, we're trying to see whether that's 17, because for about 17, 18 months, it's been a constant uptick in inflation. So something to celebrate, but also some areas to be concerned about.
Absolutely, without a doubt. The factors that inform the fluctuation of the currency, really, like you said, are multifaceted. Indeed, if you look at the trend between 2017 and 2021, the depreciation was in the region of an average of about 4%.
Right.
But we saw a 56% depreciation in 2022 alone. So it tells you that this year has been an outlier. Immediately at the beginning of the year, when Parliament unfortunately did what I call the unthinkable, in the sense that the legislation that regulates our budgetary approval process as a Public Financial Management Act was breached.
How so?
Section 22 of that legislation provides that by 31st December, 3 things ought to happen.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Budget ought to be approved, the appropriations ought to be approved, and every other legislation that would go to implement the budget ought to be approved. It's a mandatory provision. We approved the budget, we approved the appropriations, and refused to approve the law that will back the expenditures that we have approved. That obviously had consequences. Of course, it led to a run by investors, because if there's no assurance that government is going to generate the revenues to pay for their investments,
right,
they're going to react. And we saw the run on the city right from the beginning of the year. The downgrade by the ratings agencies based on non-assurance of the revenue measures that had not been approved, and all that. And of course, subsequently, the Russian-Ukraine war, that then led to global supply chain disruptions, led to a spike in energy prices across the world. You saw the inflation beginning to take a deep, hike. Subsequently, you come back in March and you approve revenue measures. By May, when it's rolled out, the performance is not as expected. And of course, investor confidence dips again, and you see a further slide, culminating in a decision by government to then go to IMF, because all the policies that they had rolled out to avert our return to the IMF had been jeopardized. And of course, that in itself also led to fears. When is the IMF program going to come on stream?
So barring all of those, things
all
have
those
happened,
are
yes.
absolutely.
And these are factors
These
that
are clear factors.
any administration would have to deal with at some point.
Of course, no
you,
doubt
you speak
at all.
about the credit.
And so before you come in, you see that when government then announced a successful staff level agreement with the IMF, that led to some reaction in the market when the gold for oil policy was announced. And agreements have indeed been executed. And
some of us, whether the gold for oil thing is still on the
still
table,
on. And
because
you see,
it appears
not,
now that the currency has stabilized.
It's important for me to clarify.
Government seems to be
it's
backtracking.
In fact, the first consignment of finished products under that program is going to come in, I believe, on the 10th and 11th or 10th and 12th of January.
Right.
Okay. And to add, it's not a substitute to our existing oil trading mechanism. It's only complementary. Okay. Fuel traders will still source for dollars, but then because this is largely a G2G arrangement, G2B arrangement, the intention is to help so that the pressure on the dollar would be brought under control. And so to answer the issue regarding what would likely happen in January, I think that with all the policies that government has rolled out, normal business people who require dollars would have sufficient enough dollars available within the space. And I expect that as we go into Q1, the full program will be approved by the IMF board, of course, subject to all the conditions that government has to meet, including the debt exchange program and the, conversation with the external creditors and all that. So I'm pretty much
Some
hopeful.
groups have said that in the best case scenario, we could get a deal with the IMF, a program or a program approval by January, and that worst case scenario, we could get it by March. But the longer it takes, the more painful this process is going to be.
I don't think that of course, we signed the staff level agreement.
If we could have had a program by now,
yeah,
we would have wanted it.
Absolutely,
so
without a doubt.
Indeed, the longer it takes.
It's not an event, okay? It's always a process that has to be followed through to its logical conclusion. And government is committed. The IMF have indicated that they are committed because the sustenance of the Ghanaian economy is important not only to Ghana, but to the global community as well, including IMF, of which we are a paid-up member, okay? And so it is my expectation that we'll do whatever it is that we have to do as a government to meet the conditions that then will then trigger the submission of our plan to the IMF board for approval. I'm positive that latest by end Q1, all that would have been concluded for an approval to be obtained, just so that we can bring some confidence back into the economy to allow government to focus and take us back on the good path that we're on before the advent of the global pandemic that has jeopardized, largely jeopardized our economy.
Right. Before we get into much harder issues, I just want us to do this soft one and clear it. Your constituency. I mean, Christmas is approaching, New Year is approaching. What's 2nd like? Just give us what have you been up to? What is 2nd like? What are the problems? Usually when members of parliament come here and we ask about their constituency, they paint a picture as though everything were rosy. What are the problems in your constituency? What are some of the gains in 2022 you've made in 2nd?
Of course, this year has been largely, uneventful, if you like, in terms of real activity on the ground, because some road projects that were started because of difficulties in government finances, it's ground to a halt. I'm hoping that
we heard recently, just yesterday in the Daily Graphic, quite a sum of money paid to some contractors.
Mainly Get Fund.
Right.
I'm hoping that the road sector would also receive some injection of funds, so that most of the contractors who have been awarded contracts can go back on the roads. I mean, in all honesty, I couldn't do community engagements this year because my own schedule at the ministry was a lot of activity that then took me in and out of town significantly, but also to go back and tell them that, look, the same state, especially my constituents in the Bakechi, Kwekuma enclave. But I can assure them that we would do whatever it takes to make sure that the contractor is paid funds permitting, so that their roads can be done. Of course, Fiankwanta Hospital redevelopment has started. The Adiambra Road to Takrady project is started. Of course, the contractor has gone for a break, Christmas break, and we expect that they will get back, as soon as the holidays are over, and move the agenda forward. But beyond that, it's largely quiet.
It's been a quiet year.
Yeah, it's been a quiet year. I mean, across the country.
Right.
And so hopefully, when we are able to put finances of the country back into shape, then we can go back and
do more.
Do more.
So basically, that would imply that many constituencies have been starved this year, partly on the back of the economic downturn that we've
Absolutely.
I mean, we can't run away from that.
Of course. I mean, you still see activity going on. Coming in, I was driving on Labadi Road, still being worked on.
Yeah.
But the level of activity that we saw 2017, 2018, 2019, of course, we saw some recovery in 2021. Then 2022 also saw a dip. So as we begin the recovery, I'm sure that a lot more will be done, so that we can deal with many of the issues that confront our people. I recall not too long ago I was on a radio station in 2nd, and then I made a comment to the effect that problems arise every day, and so you can only do as much. That even if you spend 100 years, you can't resolve all the problems in the concern that was taken on. People took a swipe at me for stating what, in my view, really is obvious. Because, Ben, in our own personal lives, we are unable to solve all our problems, but we do our best.
Yeah.
And that is my commitment
to your people,
to my constituents, of course, to the good people of this country, that we always do our best to work to improve the lot of
let me just find out from you. You said something interesting, that partly your schedule as a minister also impacted in a way or hobbled you in terms of how much you could have done in your constituency? Be brutally frank with me, because academics have said this. There have been calls. Do you think it is time for us to decouple parliamentarians from ministerial positions? Do you think it is time for us to go past that proclivity, if you like, no smaller word is coming, for selecting so many ministers from Parliament, so a parliamentarian can focus on parliamentary business? Do you think it is high time we did that? Because you're not the first person telling me this. A lot of your colleagues come and they say the same thing. Do you think it's time to do that?
I've said before that I really don't, pretty much indifferent about that conversation or where it ends. Okay, but I don't think that the dual function in itself is not possible to perform. Of course, I mean, your time...
No, I don't think people are saying it's impossible. Obviously, so many of you have done it, some have done it so well. But the point is, what it takes away from you and what you could have contributed to Parliament. You have to read all of these documents that come through, for now, for example, budgets and all of that.
Not a problem at all. So, for example, the Westminster system where ministers are all MPs, not some. Every minister is a member of Parliament. It's a dual role, and they perform it, you know, to the best of their ability. But
their
that is not to say
systems are different. They enhance. They actually, the offices available, the research available, all of that.
I agree.
We are not there yet.
So, are you then suggesting that we should put it in abeyance until we get there before we get back?
It's an option.
Well, it is an option, but there's other option also is to build the systems, the institutions to provide the support. Okay, and I'm sure that to the extent that we have adequate budgetary provision that then allows us to do that, that's exactly what is going to happen. But I don't think that, you know, ministers being members of Parliament, it gives you a sense of being broad-based, you know, knowing what it is that is happening in the legislature and executive, and, you know, applying yourself to ensure that there's some level of seamlessness in our governance architecture. But, of course, if the advocacy for a split also wins, I really don't think that that in itself would be bad as well.
Let's talk energy before we broaden the conversation and get into other sectors. Where do we find ourselves when it comes to energy now? And I would go back to Dr. Kwabena Donkor, and back then his promise to end Dumso, and within 2015, when he was not able to do that, he stepped aside.
But you see,
but that situation. No. Let me just end with a question. And they went on to deal with the situation, and at least now all of us have some stability.
Well, how did they deal with that?
We all know. I don't want us to go back into that.
No.
Because we all know that the former administration dealt with the problem. At the time, in 2016, of course, we had it for 3 years plus, and we were all averse, tired, and maybe we voted along those lines. But they had dealt with the situation as of when they were leaving office. But the question I want to actually pose to you has to do with where we find ourselves in terms of our energy utilization. We had been told a lot of the time that we had this excess power. We've been told now that we are channeling that excess power to other countries, among others. What is the update on that?
We should not have been in any Dumso in the first place.
We shouldn't. We had Dumso even under Kufuor, did we?
Oh, wait, of course. But that's why we did.
It was a long-standing problem. Even under Rawlings, we had some of that.
But of course, it wasn't for 4 years. Correct? And that's why President Kufuor added the Bui project, which then came on stream in 2015. No, in fact, the Bui project came on stream in 2013. And this is a graph that shows you clearly that Ghanaians should
Our
not...
viewers, unfortunately, can't see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
They will not be able
No, but
to.
you can confirm that
Right.
Ghanaians should not, under any circumstances, have slept in darkness for even one day. But this is it. The red line is your peak. The thick blue is your installed. And the light blue is what was added from 2015. So show me from this presentation whether we should have slept in darkness. It was a financial issue, indeed, and in fact, the former president himself, if you recall, told the good people of this country that as a result of some damage to the pipeline that was bringing in gas from Nigeria, the pipeline only carried fuel, gas, that had been damaged by some ship anchor, was leading to our inability to procure gas from Nigeria. I'm saying that gas that was coming was fuel to power existing plants. All those plants had alternative fuel sources. And so, to prevent us from sleeping in darkness, we had to procure those alternative fuel sources to power the plants. We didn't have the money. So the 4 years of darkness that you and I slept in was a financial problem.
The same way we have a financial problem now with...
But at least the lights are on.
No, I'm just asking you. The same way we have a financial problem now. The lights may be on.
See?
Ghanaians have gone through
the point that I'm making...
The currency exchange. No. Let's expand it.
Wait.
In that case, it was doomed. So in this case, it is people's businesses that are folded up.
Please.
It is 4 years, an inflationary rate that is biting.
4 years.
It is fuel prices that have hiked up.
I don't want us to do an MPP NDC comparison, but I'm using the data to point to you that don't be deceived with anybody telling you that they solved any doomsday problem, because in fact their so-called solution rather compounded our financial problem.
Okay. So the excess power and what we have to pay for it.
Precisely the point.
But in our day and age, especially as a country that wants to industrialize,
I agree.
How can you say you have excess power and you can't use it?
No problem. The point is this, that you always need energy. But the fact that...
And our population has grown.
I agree. In fact, the demand, and if you look at the data, okay, you'll see that it is only in 2019 that all the power that was added between 2015, really, we began to consume it.
Right.
But the fact remains that we had to pay between 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and in fact in 2020 for all this power.
Tell me something.
We paid
very quickly. What would you have preferred? To have the power, though you were making payments for it, or to have got to this point and still not had the power?
No.
Which would you have preferred?
That's why there's always an energy forecast plan that you work with.
Right.
That then guides when you add capacity. Okay, so that you do not incur all those costs in excess of 17 billion that government had to find money to pay for. But when you talk, they say you are providing excuses. How is a fact that is being represented amount to an excuse? How?
So finally...
No, I want to know how?
Right. I just want to find out. So as of this point, based on all that I've heard, we are sending some to neighboring countries in the West. Are we consuming the full range of the excess power that we used to have?
There's still some excess.
There's still a surplus.
But the quantum is not as huge.
About how much are we using now? 80%, 90%, 50%?
Well, about 80%.
About 80%.
Absolutely. And so 85% of that.
Okay.
And so some of the generation that had been contracted, that this government put a hold on. Of course, they hadn't built the plants at the time. We have asked some of them to begin the process of onboarding so that by 2026, okay, when the forecast indicates that we're going to begin to have shortages if we don't add additional capacity, then it's met. Of course, we're planning into 2030 with respect to our renewable energy and order how we scale it up. Only yesterday, my colleague, Honorable Reku, launched the Ghana Scaling Up Renewable Energy Program at Accra City Hotel. So those are the things that we as a ministry are doing to ensure that the lights that have been on since 2017, save for instances where we had to do NCC, as my minister aptly put it, strengthening the transmission infrastructure. The facility that is KFW have given us for 161 kV line, Accra Kumasi transmission infrastructure improvement that we're rolling out. Pokwasi has been done, Malam has been done. We're working on the Western Corridor. Kumasi Bogatanga has been done, and all that is to strengthen the transmission infrastructure so that we can, cut down on the technical losses that exist within the space. Some program that is being rolled out to introduce private sector participation in the energy distribution space, the last mile, that we have begun the process of engagement with ECG. Yesterday, my minister met with the ECG unions and began the conversation, stakeholder engagement on how we roll it out to improve the performance of ECG. Of course, so far, we haven't seen any queues at the pumps. Availability of crude, finished products have been available, except that, as we all saw during the course of the year, prices shot up, but they are beginning to normalize. Significant reductions have been seen at the pumps that we expect will translate. Already, the transport owners have announced a reduction of 15.3% in transport fares. And so we begin to see the impact of the reduction in prices. So by and large, everybody would attest that the energy sector has been robust. We've significantly delivered on our mandate to the good people of this country. And my expectation that in the coming year, we'll do more to ensure that at all times the stability of electricity generation and distribution for Ghanaian households and businesses.
But let's talk about, especially as we're talking about our capacity now and the fact that 80 to 85% is a good thing. I'm sure over time we'll find other uses for the excess capacity. But let me find out, in terms of our energy mix, especially in a world ravaged by global warming, climate change, and all of that, lots of people are moving away from some sources of energy production and opting for others. I'm sure you followed major projects in, is it Algeria? Morocco, others. In fact, I think the one in Algeria is said to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, when completed in the world. Looking at our energy mix, hydro, gas, and others, are we thinking solar, for example, solar farms? What are the projects we can look forward to? How are we going to harness this? Because the sunshine is free, and thankfully, we have lots of it in Ghana.
Yes, indeed, yesterday's program that I alluded to earlier, our scaling up renewable energy, is largely driven by solar. Already Bui have built, they're building, I think they built 50, megawatts P of solar on the reservoir, and they're looking to scale it up to 250. We've done some solar, I believe, 15 megawatts in the Kalio phase 1, working on phase 2. VRA itself is working to add some solar to their generation mix at Akosombo. And so that is a huge component of what it is that we are rolling out. One, to meet our Paris agreements, and also to meet our energy transition goals that we have set. Only last month, His Excellency the President at COP27 launched our energy transition framework as a country that then lays out what steps that we need to take in transportation, electricity generation, between now and 2070, where we expect to achieve net zero, which is carbon neutrality. We have to reduce our carbon footprint and also put in some measures that then enables us to neutralize. So afforestation, huge component of it, solar, wind, and significantly, Excellency the President has also approved Ghana to go nuclear. Okay, so if you see in the budget statement,
it's interesting because Nkrumah thought this in the 60s.
Absolutely,
and we're still in,
and we're still at it because
65 years
the
on,
sabotage.
now thinking of
and really the fear of potential abuse of nuclear. And we see it in Iran and other
nuclear
places.
requires proper handling.
Absolutely.
Even in terms of harnessing. I've listened to programs about the nuclear reactors and the reaction and even the waste, nuclear waste produced from energy production. And how to handle it. Even the developed economies are.
So it's important. But of course, I mean, if we had started the rollout, earlier, I'm sure that there would have been a lot of learning that we would have, learned to ensure that we are able to deploy. Because solar, wind is not going to be able to provide you with the requisite base load that then helps you drive your industrialization agenda. Okay, so it's important for us as we transition. Gas, which is powering about 80-85% of our plants now, has been largely recognized as a cleaner hydrocarbon, is a transition fuel of choice. And so that's what we as a country, together with our hydro, have been using to as it were, meet our obligations. But going forward, as we add solar, wind, and other sources of renewable energy, we believe that having nuclear, which is a cleaner, much more cleaner energy source, would help in providing some base load that then helps with our industrialization agenda as a country.
Of course, you can't industrialize without energy.
Absolutely,
it's sine qua non. But tell me, especially as we're talking energy, let's come back to fuel sources. We've been told that you practically led a team to the United Arab Emirates. The president spoke about getting cheaper sources of fuel and all of that. Are they projects in Ewuana? We don't hear anything anymore. What happened?
Of course. You see, I don't know, was it on this show that I mentioned gold for energy, gold for oil?
Well, maybe not with me.
Oh, okay. So we've gone a long way.
Okay.
And indeed, His Excellency the President only last week mentioned as part of the conversations that have led to the decline of the dollar, the gold for oil program that we've announced on the 10th, 11th, 12th of January. The first consignment of finished products is going to arrive in this country as part of the...
Coming from where?
Oh, from the United Arab Emirates.
From the UAE?
Yes.
Between the 10th and the when?
11th, 12th January.
Of January. So let's say between the 10th and the 12th of January.
All the necessary agreements that needed to be executed has been executed. A lot more interest have been shown by other oil traders. My colleague, Honorable Amin Anta, returned from Morocco only yesterday. Signed an agreement with, I do not recall the name of the company, but it's a JV between...
Joint venture.
Yeah, that company, JV between Enoch and the Moroccan oil company. They have also signed on for the swap arrangement for oil and gold.
So is this
really,
is this a G2G, government to government engagement?
G2B, okay. Government to business.
Government to business,
Okay, and that's G2G conversations have also taken place. The surprise for me is the very moment that an announcement is made, then everybody expects that the next day you see it translated into action. But as with most programs, it's not an event. Okay, but you need to communicate so people know exactly what it is that government is doing. Okay, to give them comfort that it is not as if your leaders are sleeping on the job, but they are working to roll out a system program that would ensure that there's some complementary, not substitute, It's, for me, it's very significant that we drive home that point. That whatever it is that government is doing is intended to complement what it is that the private sector, who are operators within the space, are providing. Okay, just so that we can take some pressure off the dollar, okay, and make it available to other people who ordinarily would not be getting, and hence increasing the pressure on the cedi for it to depreciate. So these are steps that government have taken to ensure that we're able to complement what the private sector is doing to provide stability in the space. And it's been a very successful run so far. And in the fullness of time, like I indicated, we're all going to see that this is the fruit of the work that has gone into this over the period. Yes.
So at least we can look forward to January 2023 between the 10th to the 12th
no doubt,
of March.
no doubt at all.
We're expecting some crude, right? From the UAE.
Not crude.
Finished product.
Absolutely, yes. These are white products, yes.
Okay, from the UAE.
Yeah, because you know our refinery has not been brought back on stream.
Yes.
Yes, there are some private sector refineries, Platon and Akwaba, that are operating in terms of small scale. But Tor is the one that can produce or refine the volumes that would meet about 40-50% of our demand. And that is being worked on. Hopefully very soon we'll hear what the outcome of the conversations that have been going on has yielded. And for Tor to come back on stream, the expectation of management, okay, at the last meeting that we held at the Office of His Excellency the President, was that by end February they expect that they would start refining products at Tor.
At Tor?
Yes.
And February next year?
Yes. That said, the expectation of management,
okay,
as they communicated at a meeting, I believe it was last week or so. And so there's been some conversation that has been ongoing, save that there's been issues here and there, but they're looking to fine-tune and sign so that by end February, Tor will come back on.
Is that to say the debt overhang, the debt challenges of Tor, the logistical challenges, the leadership challenges have all been ironed out? I mean, Tor, we can talk about Tor for the whole show.
There you go again.
Have they been ironed out?
I said it's a process.
It's a process.
It's ongoing.
Okay.
And the expectation is that by end February, they would come back on stream.
And February 2023?
Yes.
Okay. So we can expect that from February, let's say by February, March, Tor should be refining
all things being equal, yes.
Okay. Okay. And we're going to push for that?
Absolutely.
Okay. I like that. Hopefully in February we'll have a conversation again and see
my boss is
where Tor
is a machine, you know that.
Nah, boy.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay. He's driving all of us to ensure that we bring some traction that then enables us to meet our expectations, or the expectation of the people of Ghana of the energy ministry.
Let me just re-echo this, just to ensure that we're on the same page. 10th to 12th March, we're getting
January.
January.
I don't know why you want
we're
to
getting,
go to March.
We're getting, my apologies, it's good for all of us if it's January. We're getting refined product from the UAE.
Absolutely.
We've just signed some sort of agreement with a business in Morocco.
Yes.
And we're engaging the Moroccan government as well to ensure that moving forward we can engage in same with them.
In fact,
so we're paying for all of these with gold. Just to clarify, are we paying with gold?
Yes, yes.
We're paying with gold.
A lot more people, traders, have expressed interest in participating in that program.
Traders from where?
Across the world.
From where? I mean,
across.
Russia?
Oh, you know.
Saudi Arabia?
You know all the big oil traders.
I just mentioned some of them. You've not said it.
You see, it's really not anything strange or, ordinarily, if all the remittances from the export of our natural resources did not have retention agreements that allowed them to keep the funds outside, or a significant chunk of it outside, but rather brought them into Ghana we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. But that's not the situation. And so what government has done is to say, okay, Bank of Ghana should be in a position to buy through PMMC a certain percentage of that gold produced in Ghana. And then they then will swap that through an arrangement with third parties for gold. I mean, for finished products to complement what it is that comes into the country regularly. That's all. It's a very simple, straightforward transaction.
Some said that, you know, with this situation, with the price of gold fluctuating, gold is pretty stable, but it has its own fluctuations. And we've seen what oil has risen to in this year.
It also fluctuates. So every commodity traded across the world, the price is not fixed.
So is it practical to use gold?
Of course.
In exchange for this?
Why not? Why not?
Even when our currency has stabilized to...
But that's why I said to you...
The point, I mean, if it gets even better, would it still make sense to go with gold?
But of course, you need to realize that I said right from the very outset that it's not intended to substitute.
Right.
It's only complementing.
Okay.
And so people can still source their dollars and buy finished products and bring it to the country.
In the end...
No issues.
Just tell me. So I'm sure we have projections about, look, since you're talking about complementation and all of that, maybe we want to do 20% of our purchases generally moving forward as a country with gold. What's the plan in that?
Well, the plan is that, of course, private sector people, government cannot put in this arrangement for. Correct? But BOST is state-owned. And so BOST can be supported to do this arrangement for the volume of commodity, which is in the region of about 30-40%, to come in to, as it were, complement what the private sector BDCs or buybacks do. That's all.
Okay. Let's
let the naysayers who felt that what is this strange arrangement that we are being told about.
Maybe when we see what it yields,
it's not like that.
Patient. I see. Well, I'm sure they're patiently waiting for the finished products that will be coming in, in January.
I've indicated to you.
And to see Tor up and running in February, and maybe you will convince your naysayers. What do you think?
Sure. I'm up for that bet.
Okay.
No worries at all.
A few more aspects of energy, and we'll broaden the conversation
sure.
as we wind out. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, we are told, is in the process of computing necessary figures as they do quarterly for between the 1st and 31st of January. There's a lot to say on that, but I'd like to find out from where you sit as Deputy Energy Minister, are we likely to look forward to more utility tariff adjustments upward or stabilization? Especially in the course of this year and the few things that have happened.
Benjamin.
And the hikes. You know what?
No problem.
The Ghana Water Company Limited requested, then Electricity Company requested, among others.
No problem.
What can we look forward to next year?
Well, obviously the components that go into the pricing. The exchange rate, right? A huge chunk of it is the exchange rate. And so if the exchange rate is where it is, and it's expected to trend downwards even further, then you can rest assured that there won't be any significant increase, if any, in tariffs going forward. But it's important that we all understand that this policy of quarterly adjustments has been there. Okay, except that for some reason, the PURC has not implemented it as is expected. But government has committed that, look, if we are to ensure that our utilities are economically sustainable, then it's important that their tariffs are adjusted regularly or as per the formula that is already in place, just so that they do not suffer unduly. Because when that happens, it turns out to be government that then is called upon to bail them out. Indeed, and in fact, ECG, because of the IPP contracts that they've signed, okay, which they are unable to pay because their collections can not under any circumstances pay for the obligations that they have contracted. Government at all times come to their aid. Indeed, in 2022, government spent almost 4 billion cedis for national education, ECG, IPP payments and all that, okay? And so it's important that you streamline that space to ensure that they are able to stand on their feet and you know, most especially collect the monies that are due them and to be economically viable.
Just to wrap on the energy conversation before we get into broader waters, I saw the story today on the back page of the Daily Graphic, and I just wanted to run it by you. Energy commissioners use moratorium on defective appliances, and according to the story, importers and dealers in the electronic appliances that have not met the minimum performance standards have been given a 1-year moratorium to ensure that such products meets the required standards. According to officials of the Commission and the Ghana Standards Authority, the move was to ensure that only appliances that had met energy efficiency regulations for electrical appliances in 2022 would be allowed into the Ghanaian market. I found it interesting because a lot of the time, the products we see, some of them very old and contributing to our greenhouse gases and all of that. Is this a policy that the Energy Ministry spearheaded or something that what's the involvement? Of course,
the Energy Commission is an
definitely, but
indeed, this year
on its own, it will come out with its own programs.
This year, they with the assistance of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament, passed 21, I believe, energy standard regulations, okay, covering electrical appliances, sewing machines, and all sorts of things, okay, and so the expectation would have been that immediately after the regulations come into force, the standards will be applied. That, I suspect, is what the story is referencing, that they've given some 1-year moratorium to ensure that, of course, public education and all that goes ahead, just so that it can be enforced to ensure that some sanity is brought within the space with respect to the appliances that these regulations cover that are imported or manufactured in the country meet.
Finally, on energy, I have to take you all the way back to 2020, and to be fair, yes, you were not. You were not deputy energy minister then.
No, I wasn't.
You were not, and in fact, your boss was not the energy minister then. It was John Peter Amewu.
No problem
at the time. But if you look at the Daily Graphic of March 13, 2020, you would find a story about how Energy Minister John Peter Amewu had said that the ministry had started a project to improve energy efficiency and manage demand to drive down the amount households paid for electricity. So what was done? Considering the major shortfalls and all of that, the project dubbed the Energy Conservation and Demand Side Management involved the distribution of light-emitting diode bulbs to metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies for onward distribution to households at no cost to the households. Additionally, the minister indicated that some 12 million of these energy-saving bulbs had already been procured by the ministry at a cost of 200 million Ghana cedis. My concern had to do, at the time, with the fact that even on a high side, these bulbs would not cost up to 8 cedis in 2020 at the time of the project. But even if you did the math and gave a total of 12, cedis to the project, the total of 12 million bulbs should cost us no more than 96 million if you were using 8 cedis. I had so many concerns about them. He explained that it would go all the way to metropolitan assemblies and all of that. But whatever became of that project? Whatever became of it? I say this because I followed the news on this and nothing, I never heard any conclusivity about, okay, so we've rolled out, we've distributed to X number and the sum of 200 million. What happened to that project?
Well, I do not know the details with respect to figures and how you then make comments.
My calculations, You can go back. That's why I quoted to you the daily graphic of March 13th, so that you can always go back.
If my recollection is right, those LED bulbs that were distributed across the country.
I see.
Members of parliament were given some.
So they were distributed?
Of course, they were. MMDCs, households were given through, and so unless it was a continuing project, that would be still running at the ministry, and I'm not so sure that over the past year and a half.
So if you have no idea, it means likely it's been concluded.
That's what I would imagine, because in all the budgets that we have done, including the most recent one, of the Solar Lantern program, the LPG for development program that we are running, does not include this LED distribution. And so, but I recall in 2020 that I was a beneficiary and I distributed it across households in my constituency.
But you see, that is one problem I usually have with policies of different governments and all of that. We had spoken about 200 million Ghana cedis. Where is the account in the end that maybe I'll have to trigger the RTI to go in?
Please
maybe I would have to trigger it to check.
But you see...
But when you've done something like this, major, you should be able to come and say, when you were telling us that you would have what? Assemblies would receive 50,000 bulbs, while municipal and district assemblies would receive 40,000 and 30,000 units. At the end of such a project, if it has ended, you should be able to say, your 200 million Ghana cedis as taxpayers' money. That would be the work
expended it on of an agency of state, the Auditor General's Department, because every procurement that MMDAs, carry through, in fact, every expenditure, is audited.
Indeed.
And so it cannot be the case that because he hasn't come to AM show to tell you what transpired with respect
public information, put it out there. I mean, it's an option.
You can ask as part of your
I'm saying that's
no issue. But I'm saying
with policies like this, what stops you from putting it in a major paper like the Daily Graphic?
No, if it's a suggestion,
as a form of
I don't have a problem if it's a suggestion that you're putting across. It's something that we can chew on. But the fact that it's not done when there are several official publications, including the Auditor General's report that are released yearly, that would cover these accounting audits are there, I would assume that should satisfy
we're both
the legal requirement of
maybe we should
of course,
check the facts of this. So
we need to, please.
I am noting it down, and I'll speak to my research team, Raymond Akwa and Co, and see what we can do. But let's quickly, in the next few minutes, we must end the conversation.
Raymond and Winston accosted me, essentially ambushed me this morning on my way here.
Oh, I see.
And put me on the spot.
Right.
We dealt with the issues.
On what?
On economy.
I see.
Finance minister.
Right. I have a few, in fact, that is where I'm going. This debt exchange situation and the TUC. Yesterday, there was some meetings slated for them between government and their side, and there was no quorum on the end of government, and things did not happen. The meeting was not held. But the debt exchange and the way it's been sprung on, ordinary Ghanaians, extended from 22nd to the 30th, and the Labour and their position that, look, don't touch our pension funds. We are not interested in anything. You've created your mess. Don't let us suffer for it. What's your position?
You see, it's disheartening when I hear.
And by the way, let me just add that with the TUC, for example, they are over 500,000.
No problem. When I hear comments like "you've created your mess," what does that really mean? Because if we delve down, line by line, on all the key expenditure items that government has incurred, we can flip it and ask whether what the outcome would have been. For example, let's go to the specifics. If government had said that, look, this energy sector payments, Akufo-Addo had no hand in contracting those IPPs, And so it's not going to borrow 17 billion.
But there's a simple answer to that. There's continuity in governance.
Thank you very much.
Other administrations have also inherited things.
I agree. That's why I get worried when we make comments like you've created your mess. Because if this government, indeed, it had no choice in the matter. Those bills had to be paid just so that the economy can run. Fact. Recall, and of course, banking sector. I'm asking myself that if the Akufo-Addo government had said, hey, this mess, banks being insolvent, is none of my business. So I'm not going to deposit your money at whatever bank. If the bank collapses and you lose your money, nobody cares. What would have been the consequences of those decisions?
Some would also ask, what have been the consequences of getting involved? 25 billion Ghana cedis, thereabouts, invested, and still more going practically on a daily basis. We know of the Atuesian issue and what he now has to pay to the state, but some say we're still paying for this, and was it worth it in the end?
So let's just say it wasn't worth it. And so government should not have put 25 billion to save the deposits of 4.3 million Ghanaians. What would have happened?
What would have happened? Some say we had alternatives.
Like what?
We could have prevented it.
Like what? Recall that liquidity support had been provided to the banks as part of the attempt to resolve the banking sector problem by the previous administration.
Exactly.
What happened to those monies? What was the outcome of that intervention? It yielded nothing.
Well, practically.
And so, look, but what did it yield? So when the government took a decision in the manner that it did, and I hear people say you collapse banks. Really? UT Bank and Capital Bank were assumed under GCB. Correct? Was that a collapse of banks? The rest of them.
Now if I'm,
no, hold on.
If I'm
hold
correct,
on.
Consolidated Bank.
Thank you very much.
Ghana, right.
Of course, with that, there was going to be some restructuring. But government had to provide the funding to save the depositors' funds. So the Ghanaian depositor was really at the end, or the persons that the government had in mind when those decisions were being taken, to protect them. So all those expenditures have been incurred. Now to deal with it, and I still believe that rather than the government putting it as part of our total debt, of course, purely accounting, I agree. Keeping it below the line, as it did in the 2019 budget, to inform all of us that, look, my regular budget cycle, above the line, these are what my regular revenue and expenditure performance is. But these extraordinary expenditures that I've incurred, this is my plan to pay it off. But at all times, keep it there. I think consistently that's what government should have done. But of course, subsequently, the finance ministry took a decision that, hey, look, put it all together.
So back to the point, because we're pressed for time.
Yeah,
what Labour is saying, how do you find that?
So we are where we are. No, I empathize with them. All the documentation that I've seen really doesn't put pensions in jeopardy necessarily.
And that's part of their problem, the non-engagement before these decisions, so that there are grey areas.
I don't know. So the question, was this really sprung on anybody? Because consistently in the communication, government had indicated that, look, there was going to be a debt restructuring of our debt. That would include external, internal, indeed. And in fact, our friends in the opposition went over and above themselves to create some panic that, hey, there's going to be a haircut. People are going to lose their investments, and back and forth. And the president had to come in his address to assure Ghanaians that, look, nobody was going to take a haircut. And so
But
subsequently,
Ghanaians didn't suspect that pensions would come into the fray.
But the pension,
I mean, that is like a no-go area.
You see, there are people who are going to go on pension next year. And so question is, when they go on pension, will they receive their pension benefits under the debt exchange program? Yes. People are going to go on pension next 2 years. Question is, because of the debt exchange program, would their pensions that will be due them in 2 years' time be taken away? No. So really, because government recognizes that this debt exchange program that is rolling out would impact the ability of the fund managers to meet their obligations as and when they fall due.
Right.
And so the finance minister has announced measures that will be put in place to ensure that they meet those obligations as and when they fall due. So really, recall, I'm coming.
Just get to the facts of the question.
Yes, so I agree. I empathize with them, and I think that when the engagement, which, as far as I'm concerned, is continuing, okay, is held, they would appreciate where it is that we are.
Okay.
Mess somebody has created, I disagree.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that we are in some economic difficulty, which then will require us to go for an IMF program.
Okay.
Part of the
I think that has been made
conditions-
clear. The finance minister himself has said that without this debt exchange, it would be pretty problematic for our
Absolutely.
IMF engagement.
And so, we
that
have
point,
to,
that point
we have
is
to
clear.
work together to see how we position our country to go back onto the growth path.
All right. This message comes through. I'll just name the person D. It says, it's not true that any energy saving bulbs were distributed. I have about 10 households across the country in several districts. Not even one household reported receiving any bulbs.
Okay,
that is his commentary.
I agree.
But you've admitted that you don't know much about that.
No, I'm coming. I said that was a beneficiary. I got some. And I distributed it. I said it. I'm saying that, does that mean that every household in Secondary got some of those bulbs?
No, I get.
Obviously not.
It's a stretch.
So really.
But let's so two crucial issues I want us to look at to wrap the conversation. The first has to do, the last issue will take us to Parliament, some of the things that have happened in Parliament. But first of all, the Burkina Faso development and the Wagner Group and what our president said. Look, we've spoken to the security people, Professor Henning, Professor Vladimir Mchidanso, and all of that. Some say we've stirred a hornet's nest when we really had no problem, no business going in that direction. For you, Akufo-Addo is your head of government, our leader, but do you feel that was a gaffe, that was wrong?
Why was it a gaffe?
I'm asking you.
That was
do
no
you
gaffe
feel?
at all.
It's a question.
See, sometimes I see the fact that your view is not what is articulated doesn't make an alternative view wrong. That's what I will say to the experts that you say you've spoken to.
In our world where we seem to have a certain Cold War simmering again, worse form than we've seen.
You think the president,
in the 80s and 90s.
the president made those comments out of 10? It wasn't based on proper briefing from his security experts.
Some say it looks as though it were not even meant to come out, that it was meant to be private like that, and it came out. So you would ask yourself about what engagement happened before he said that.
Meant to be private what? What does that mean?
Restricted to the
There's
meeting.
a threat.
Okay.
That this country faces. Indeed, the government of Ghana is spending huge sums of money building forward operating bases in the north. Why? And so if the intelligence that is received speaks to these matters You and I don't know the internal engagements that he's had with the Burkinabés already. But bringing it on the global spotlight was a gaffe. Like, seriously.
So you're meeting with the Americans in Washington.
Look.
And you're speaking to them about a Russian group in Burkina Faso.
But of course, yes. And so
if that is, it's not even the Russian government. It is not. It's a group. And he calls them mercenaries. And look at the reaction. The Burkinabés then withdraw their ambassador to us, and then they call our own ambassador.
Is it unusual?
They are obviously not happy.
Is it unusual?
They are a neighbor, and they are obviously not happy.
Is it unusual for ambassadors to be recalled? And it
is not usual in good times, in times when there are no frosty relationships. It's a sign of some frosty.
But of course, the indication from the president was clearly what he believed to be the threat that our country faced.
What was the threat? Tell me.
Of these people who are seeking to infiltrate our country from the north.
What evidence do we have to that effect?
Oh, so you want me to provide you with evidence here?
No, tell me what you know. I mean, what evidence do we have?
I don't have the evidence because I'm not the president. But I'm saying that the president would not make these statements out of 10. Just for the sake of it. There was basis, obviously.
Some say he was just trying to court favor with the United States and likely secure an IMF deal and all of that. So pandering and saying so many things that really don't wash.
I've been in meetings with the officials of the German government. Last week, I was privileged to be in a meeting with the British government at the Vice President's office. They are all committed to supporting Ghana go through this IMF program successfully. The American government obviously would support Ghana in the IMF program by telling them about some security threat that this country faces amounts to courting favor. Let's elevate the conversation. I am of the view that people do not think that the president should have conveyed that information where he did. They are entitled to their view. But the fact that the president chose to do it where he did it doesn't make him wrong.
Okay. Let's wrap the conversation in Parliament and take off from where you started. So we're in a defense security quagmire in a way. Coups in neighboring countries, threats of terrorism and all of that. In the midst of that, it's interesting, isn't it? Curious that the Speaker of Parliament has to come up and speak for the Defense Ministry, which has got just about 19% of allocations to it, 81% outstanding of over the 3.4 billion, I think, that it needs. Especially as the point is made about our security situation and our disbursements not going to specific ministries. And the Speaker having to call out, I'm just looking for the story in today's daily graphic. The Finance Minister, here it is. He says, "It is sad when I really read and saw that approximately 81% of the budget on goods and services had not been released to the Ministry of Defense." And we're looking at an approval of 3.742 billion. And he says, this is not the way to go. The practice of the Ministry of Finance not releasing all the budgetary allocations for the Defense Ministry does not augur well for the safety and security of the individual and our community. What is your quick take on that?
Every ministry is given allocations based on the expectation of the resource envelope that would be available to the exchequer in the course of the year to pay for three components mainly: compensation, goods and services, and then capital expenditure. Right? And these are the components of the budget of every MMDA. So if the compensation, which is usually to pay for the wages and salaries of the employees, are given, which almost always is met in full. Goods and services, depending on what comes into the coffers, is what is released. So no ministry, none, definitely not the energy ministry where I work from,
right,
receives all its allocations in the year. In fact, I am a member of the Constitutional.
Is that a practice we shouldn't rethink?
But you see, that's the question. So you budget
because you have the needs of the ministry versus where we find ourselves financially.
Benjamin,
the Minister of Finance is known to hold sometimes. In fact, I had an interaction with I've forgotten whom recently, and they said that I think it was Professor Gachi that in the coming year it will even be steeper, and that some ministries would be lucky to get even 40% of their budgeted or budgetary allocations. Does that mean that these ministries will literally have to fight the finance minister?
Well, if the revenues, if the projected revenues go in as expected, then I would expect that the Ministry of Finance will release those sums of money to the ministries, departments, and agencies. But if the revenue doesn't perform, then you would expect that the Ministry of Finance will manage the releases so that everybody gets something that will enable them meet their recurrent expenditures for the year.
Okay.
That's the reality of every budget cycle, I believe, since Kwame Nkrumah's time.
Ayo. let's wrap it with this. I'll put all of them together, just one bit on Parliament, and then we can say goodbye. So the first one, not keeping government in check, blame Parliament. That's Minority Leader. And he says Parliament must accept some blame and responsibility for not keeping the executive arm of government in check in the performance of its functions, including excessive borrowing. And he doesn't limit it to just this administration, but he says especially this administration. There's also the National Cathedral, and I think that will be, there's the Subin MP, entry, who says that, look, as majority MPs, he's reiterating they can't be threatened. There's been talk about the powers that be in the executive trying to tell people that you pursue this line, you will lose your seat, primaries, and all of that. I'm sure you heard him very ferociously.
I heard him
yesterday making that point that he wants to defend the soul of the party, and it's not about Akufo-Addo. He has nothing against the president, but this promise must be kept. And finally, the National Cathedral and the 80 million Ghana cedis that has not been approved twice. How it even falls under the tourism ministry has been questioned. That the chief director was not able to answer questions. The minister was not able to give account of what the 80 million would go into. 3 issues to take a quick look at, and it's a wrap. Parliament. You can start
Eugene, my good friend, is entitled to his view, but I disagree.
The Subin MP.
Yes.
Right.
I disagree. I know that a majority took a certain position.
Mm-hmm. Was that your position as well?
I've said on your show, on Joy...
This is JoyNews.
This is JoyNews that I don't think majority decision means unanimous decision, because I personally don't think that with all that has transpired, okay, I don't see why the finance minister should be blamable. I don't see it. But of course, people have a different view, and they are entitled to it. And I'm
so
sure
you think Kenoforiata should stay?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Of course.
Okay.
The decision rests solely in the bosom of the appointing authority, which is His Excellency the President. So really, my view doesn't matter.
Okay.
But so that's what it is. I mean, I don't believe that Parliament of Ghana failed to pass, in accordance with Section 22 of the Public Financial Management Act, a certain revenue measure that would fund the expenditures that the Parliament itself had approved, which led to a run on our economy, which led to the downgrade initial can be attributable to the finance minister. I don't think so at all.
Okay, so point made there. The National Cathedral and 80 million rejected.
You see,
I remember having a conversation with you some time back, and you said that
the cathedral,
National Cathedral is not for Akufo-Addo.
But is it for? Is it for?
Well, the question is,
it for?
Did he campaign on that? No. Did Ghanaians ask him for a National Cathedral? No. When you say it's not for Akufo-Addo, but the point is, let's focus on that one. We can discuss it. The 80 million that has been rejected, doesn't it tell?
Well, that's the committee's recommendation. It will come to the plenary. And I believe strongly that regardless of what your views are on the National Cathedral, I think that it's a good monument that we ought to have as a nation. This is a country that holds all important state functions at a car park. Do you hear me?
I heard you.
We hold important state functions at the car park of the State House.
So we can't find anywhere else to do that but a National Cathedral.
Show me if we had.
So within the precincts of Parliament, we can't
if we had a place to hold important state functions, why are we doing it at the car park?
Is that the only
I'm
option
asking you a simple question.
No, I'm asking you back. Is that the only option we have?
Do we have an option? If we have other options, why are we doing it at the car park? I want to know. So for me, so why are we not using it?
It's state run.
Why
don't we use that?
Let's not trivialize some of these things, because we all sat in this country. When President Kufuor decided to build the Jubilee House, we had all sorts of comments, including suggestion that they would turn it into a hen coop when they come into government. When they came, they used it. The National Cathedral, if you've looked at the purpose,
I have,
and all the things that it's intended to serve, only posterity would judge.
Okay, we'll have to wrap the.
So for me, I do not even understand. So is it the suggestion? Is it the suggestion of the people who are vehemently opposed to it that the monies that have gone in there should go to waste?
Some have said it can be repurposed.
To do what? Have you been there?
Into an academic institution, into something else.
Academic institution, what? Does what? We should build a campus.
Someone suggested once that it should be repurposed into
President Kufuor said it.
Better governance and other things.
President Kufuor said it.
There are options.
President Kufuor, that sometimes we behave as if we know the cost of everything but the value of.
Bloomberg, by the way, recently said that by building the National Cathedral in these times, we're acting like a rich Arabian sultanate in the Gulf. When in fact we're a developing country with lots of
Bloomberg, why is it not a journalist who wrote it?
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that
it's not a human being who wrote it. So that's his view.
Okay,
I don't have one. But I will urge my fellow Christians across the country.
Right.
This project, His Excellency the President, should largely be coming from our contributions. I believe strongly.
We are seeing the state
and I'm controversial. Of course, the state.
A whole lot. When we're told that the state would not put in anything.
Who said the state?
Then we put in seed money.
Who said it? Where did you hear that from? Show me where it was said that the state. Where?
This was not going to be a taxpayer issue.
But that government was going to do what?
From the state coffers.
But that government was going to do what? The land was going to provide the land.
Yes, the land was going to be provided.
And then the seed funding.
25 million. That was provided. Now, how much have we expended?
Where did you see the 25
but this
million?
This was a sum that we all discussed on from Okija to Ablakwa to confirmations from the board and all of that.
That what?
That money had been paid. Have you forgotten? When the finance ministry and it was said that it wasn't even in the budget.
But or at the time that the Ministry of Finance had given them 25 million. Was it said that was how much government was going to contribute? That's the question I'm asking.
No, I'm not saying
please,
that. So that amount was paid.
See.
To what extent are we going to continue paying seed money?
I personally, I think that right from the very beginning, His Excellency the President should have just made budgetary provision for it to build it because it's a state property.
Okay, point made.
But Haruna, my very good friend, the minority leader.
Right.
Sometimes I get surprised at the kinds of things that they say.
Okay.
We approve budgets and we allow for some deficit financing. Right? Save for 2020 in the COVID year. And I believe in 2021, where the deficit was exceeded because of the pandemic. Did the finance minister not operate within that 2017, 18, 19?
Point made.
So what was this talk?
We have to go. This one, though.
But of course, I'm glad he admits that he himself probably has been sleeping.
Well, that we can discuss some other day. Ada Blonde says, please ask him whether the haircut will affect their ex gratia. Maybe you answer that for me. Would you like to take a haircut on your ex gratia payments? Yes or no? Oh, yes or no?
Why not?
Okay. And on that note,
I'm taking a hit.
Andrew Ejapa.
I'm taking a hit of 30% in my emoluments.
Right.
Gladly.
So if your ex gratia is also cut, no
issue at all.
All right. Andrew Ejapa Mensah is Deputy Energy Minister and Member of Parliament for 2nd D. He was gracious enough to join us this morning. Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Well, we'll get the latest on the Bawku situation shortly after the break. We understand about 6 people have died following renewed clashes there. We'll also hear from major stakeholders on that issue. What is it with the Mampusis and the Kusasis that keeps re-triggering this entire development? We'll be bringing you that after the break. But before we go for that break, the Fright All Joy FM party in the park is the perfect place for your family. The date, December the 26th, 2022. Venue, Ebri Botanical Gardens. You know how we do. The time is 9 a.m. till you decide to knock off. The rate is a cool 100 Ghana cedis for a family of 6. Now, you can purchase your tickets from the Joy FM front desk or dial the short code *713* 003 hash. I repeat, *713* 003 hash. Select one, select Joy Party in the Park, or call 0265 125 3118 for inquiries. The Joy FM Party in the Park is sponsored by Fright All Sunflower Cooking Oil. Enjoy the goodness in tasty meals. Fortune Rice, always on point, just like mom. Alliance Life Insurance, we secure your future. Syntax Tanks, Ice Strong, Air Strong, Air Tough, and supported by ATL, bringing fabrics to life. Mobile Doctors, Ghana, the doctor at your home. Ghana AIDS Commission, condomless sex is risky. If it's not on, it's definitely not in. This reminds me of an advert from way back. Coa Mixture, the medicine that works, and it's all about the Joy FM Family Party in the Park, your #1 family outdoor event. For tickets reservation, please call 0540 106 466. We take a break and return with all the action on Bawku. Stay.
One of the most consumed protein so far as Christmas is concerned in our part of the world, and few days to the start of Christmas, let's say 4 or 3 days to Christmas, we just want to speak to some sellers of fowl to know what the prices are, and also to know, are people really coming in to buy fowl or chicken for this Christmas? Let's engage them and know what the situation is like. We are here at the Malata market. We want to speak to some sellers of these fowls to know what the situation is like, and also to gauge the price. What sort of increments are we seeing, or what sort of decrease is it in the price? I have here Richard, who has been in this business for almost 16 years. Let's speak to him. What's the situation like? Richard, talk to me. You've been selling fowls for 16 years now. What is the situation like this year?
This year, the fowls are not there. Because some of them last year, because of the COVID-19, some of the farmers have stopped the work. Now this year, because of that, the fowl is not there. The price have gone up. So the layer is 70 Ghana cedis, and then the broiler 100 to 150 cedis.
So talking about layer 70 and also broiler that is 100 to 150, right? Compared to last year, what were the prices like? And also this year, at what percentage were we seeing the price increase?
The price of the fowl has started to increase since 3 or 4 months ago. That the price has gone up like that. Earlier this year, the price gone to 45 to 50, but now it has gone to 70 Ghana cedis because of the ration of the dollar that has gone up 3 months ago. Everything has gone up. It's facing that now that the dollar has come down, we are praying that maybe the price will grow back because of the fowls are not there. So we are still engaging how we will see the price will come down, or we will maintain that 70 Ghana. That's how we are trying to make.
So you were saying the fowls are not really coming because the farmers are raising some concerns. What are some of the concerns these farmers are raising?
Because of the cost of the food, the feed that they're giving to the fowls, they are not there, and then the price too has gone up, so they can't buy, they can't afford to buy. So they are saying that if government can help them giving some of that food that they are used to buy, so that is why the farmers are crying for, because they can't afford to buy the feed. The feed are costly. So due to some of them just leave the job, because those who don't have much money stop the job, they can't do it. So because of many people are now casing for the few goods that they.
All right, now let's talk about the fact that we are in Christmas, and now we should know by now people should be buying fowls or chicken. But at this point, are people really coming to buy?
Yes, people really come because fowl is meat, so people cannot celebrate without meat. So because of that, they have to force and come and buy. But those days that they used to buy plenty, maybe when you come, they can buy 2 or 3. But they used to buy 10, 20, that will be the problem. Only one people that can be able to afford to buy that.
Yeah. With what I have behind me, from the look of things, how many days would it take for you to clear everything?
Because this Malata market is normally based on their market day. That's starting from Thursday to Friday is the market day. So from that day we can sell a lot of fowls from 500 to 600.
Right, so the situation here is there seems to be some shortage of fowl here at the Malata market, and also there are concerns of some of these farmers also not being able to get enough feed to feed these fowls. So there is some sort of shortage here at the Malata market. Let's speak to some of these sellers of fowl to know what the situation is like. Away from the sellers of these fowl, I have a buyer here who has been here for some few minutes. I would also want to engage her to know what the price are. Hi, Niad.
Yes.
I've seen you with a polythene bag. Talk to me, how much is the fowl now?
Okay, 75 cedis.
I understand you asked them to help you with something.
Yes, I asked them to kill it for me. That's 5 cedis, so making 80 Ghana.
But previously, how were the prices like?
Okay, I used to buy it 50 Ghana cedis. That was then, but now it's 75.
Right, so 50 Ghana cedis, that was like how many months are we looking at now?
That was, let me say, 5 months ago that I used to buy it.
And now it's 75. So how many times have you bought it for 75?
Okay, so far this is only today that I'm coming to buy it.
So now it's 75 cedis, and that is when they help you with the cutting and others. That's when it gets to 80 cedis. That means the 5 cedis, an additional amount they've added to the 75 cedis, making it 8 cedis. But let's speak to some others to know also what are the price for the fowl prior to the Christmas. You've been selling fowl for some time now. Talk to me, what's the situation like?
The two seasons is our chicken now. It's like their feed is very cost. So because of that, the chicken also costs. We used to sell the soup one 60, 65, and then the stew one to 100, 110.
Right Now let's look at it. It appears Christmas had already started for you guys, because I've been seeing some, I don't know, there should be some feathers of fowls here. Now let's come to the main issue now. You've spoken about feed. You've also spoken about the fact that the prices are shooting up. Are the people really coming to buy?
The Christmas is less small, but we are how we are working every day. We are working like that. But the Xmas is left like by say 4 or 5 days. But the Xmas people didn't start yet. But some are coming one.
Now, for how long have you been in this business?
Oh, a long time, long time. It's like early 79.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there are issues of also shortage of fowl. Are you guys also experiencing same year?
Shortage of fowl, no. It's like because of the feed cost, plenty people didn't do. But the chicken a day, but they like the first everybody have some. It's like the feed, some people didn't make the fowl.
And this is all because of the fact that the farmers are saying they can't get the needed feed for some of these fowl. Is that the case?
Yes, that's the case.
So looking at it, then it means we should have some percentage of 80% increment with respect to price of fowl currently, right?
Yes.
Are they really buying guinea fowl aside the chicken?
They are buying guinea fowl, they are buying chickens.
All for the Christmas?
All for the Christmas.
But let's talk about the price of the guinea fowl. What's the price like?
The price of the guinea fowl, we have 60, we have 65, we have 70, we have 75.
What really makes the difference here?
Our guinea fowl is pure local one. Then the big size is 75. The other one to be 65.
It appears we have almost 80% increment, that is percentage-wise increment in the price of fowl. Now, for him, it appears Christmas had already started. But let's speak to some of the guys doing the chopping and the cutting here. Let's really speak to them, know what's really happening here. Hi. Talk to me, what are you doing? Are this meant for yourself, or you've already started with the Christmas, or this is for people?
This is for people. We don't start the Christmas yet.
So when are you starting yours?
Coming Friday. That's the Christmas 24th going.
So that's when you are starting your Christmas. Now let's look at this. You do the cutting. How much does it cost for someone to do the cutting?
The cost, we charge all with the chicken money. So we don't have different price with the cutting.
But I spoke to a seller who said the fowl is 75 and the cutting is 5 cedis. Is that the case?
Yes. That is the case. It's true. Maybe if somebody come out, you can say you can buy it with the killing 70 cedis.
So let's look at this. We know the price has now shot up. When the sellers or the buyers come, do they complain?
Yeah, they complain.
They complain?
Yes.
And are they willing to buy?
Because of their packet. Some are buying, and some to maybe he decided to buy 2 or 3, but because of the price change, so they can buy 1 or 2.
Right, so this is how the situation is like here at the Malata market. So what we are being told is, 1, there is some sort of shortage with respect to the supply of fowl. That has to do with the fact that the farmers are saying they are not getting the needed feed for these fowls, so they've decided to probably go into other business. So that is causing some sort of shortage, and we are seeing some increment, that is percentage-wise, almost 80% increment in the price of fowl. It appears this Christmas wouldn't be easy, but definitely some can cope with the situation. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
Hello, thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. I'm Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Just gone by was AM business. It's interesting that as people are preparing for Christmas, there are many who cannot even begin to think about celebrating the festivities because there are issues of safety where they are. I'm talking about persons living in Bawku. We understand that some of them have already started fleeing the area. 6 persons have been confirmed dead in the latest resurgence of conflict in the area. It's a really disturbing situation. My colleague Albert Sori will be giving us a quick update on what the situation is like there this morning. We understand that the RECSEC has deployed more security to deal with the problem. Hello, Albert. So earlier we saw the persons instigating the conflict or perpetrators of violence in this conflict, attack some installations, causing power cuts to communities in and around Bawku, but that has been restored by NEDCO. We also know that the RECSEC has deployed more personnel to ensure that there is safety in the area. What's the updates there this morning? Sorry, Albert, can you kindly unmute your device so we hear you?
Yes, Benny. So what I can tell you is that peace is returning, calm is returning to the Bawku township this morning, mainly, of course, because of the deployment of security to the area and how seriously the Regional Security Council has been taking this matter since it researched about 3 days ago. So this morning, people are going about their normal everyday activity, but you would still have to, you would understand that because of how serious the recent attacks have been, the calm is still uneasy for a lot of people who live in the area. There are reports that some people have actually left town to neighboring areas like Zebila, Binduri, and even to Bolga to live with relatives because they don't feel safe. And so that is the situation this morning. The Regional Security Council is telling us that the security they have brought there to reinforce what was already there will continue to remain until they are sure that things are a bit normal. But let me just indicate that, for the last 1 year, there's always been a security station in Bawku. They only call for more men when things are getting out of hand. Now, there are reports about some of the nurses and even teachers who live there who are no longer feeling so safe about doing their work because of all of this. So it's really bringing normal everyday activity in terms of economic and work activity to a standstill. People are not feeling very easy doing their work, although we haven't heard about shootings today or yesterday.
Right. Albert, do we know what triggered the recent resurgence of violence?
So it still has to do with the long-standing chieftaincy conflict that has been in Bawku for many years now. What we understand was that the recent attack started when a man was attacked in his home and shot and killed. His son was also shot in the process. And then there were reprisals after this happened. And that is why we have the recent situation.
And this man who was shot and killed, do we know who he is? Has it been established why he was the target of this violence?
Yes. So the difficulty normally with the police, for instance, is that when you begin to report the names and giving the identities of people, you may just be encouraging more reprisals, because if one of the factions get to know that the person belongs in their faction, you may just escalate the situation. So they have not been very forthcoming when it comes to releasing the name of this person or his identity. But we do know that he belongs to one of the factions, and obviously he was targeted because of this long-standing chieftaincy issue. Remember that it has been going on for a very long time, and for most people who are watching this conflict in Bawku, they keep telling us that sometimes it is now more about retaliation rather than the long-standing chieftaincy conflict, because people now attack because their relatives have been attacked, or people who belong in their factions have been attacked. Once that happens, normally you would have reprisal. So retaliation has also become center stage when it comes to this issue. So that is the situation that we have.
Albert, I'll just have you hold on for a while. Let me pick the thoughts of security analyst Dr. Adam Bonar. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for joining the program. So, as my colleague rightly reported, this seems to be linked to the long-standing chieftaincy dispute in the Bawku area. We know how hard we've been working to bring Bawku back to a point where we could all relax and say we know for sure that we're not going to have any resurgence of violence. It's been quiet for some time around that area, only for us to hear the resurgence of violence leading to the loss of 6 lives. I mean, from where you sit, and obviously from the information you have, would you say that this is a one-off, or it is actually a detour in our path to taking Bawku to long-lasting peace?
Well, I would say it's a detour. A good morning to yourselves and Albert, who just reported. Last night, in fact, I slept around 1 a.m. Having back and forth conversation with the feuding parties, speaking to their leaders, letting them understand why it is important to, let the guns be quiet. Spoke to several of them, spoke to some youth commanders, some of the warring factions, some very important chiefs in the area, trying to let them know it is a needless conflict, and they would have to find a way to make sure the guns are quiet. It took me between several hours trying to speak to several of them. Somehow been successful talking to them, and the promise is that they will speak to the young people, their colleagues who are shooting, to let peace prevail, at least for the time being, whilst we try to understand what brought about this round of violence. If you quite remember, our last visit to the Bawku area, myself, I was part of the delegation, CDS, IGP, Interior Minister, Defense Minister, you can mention all the other security couples. We went to Bawku, we sat with the various, groups, the leaders, Bawku Naba, the Mamproses, met all of them. And the promise was that we wouldn't see any exchange of fire and any killings for at least 90 days or 3 months. And we were expecting that the 3 months would have ended around December, December. And so that we could go back there, sit with them again, and see how we can plan towards a more meaningful, lasting solution, to the area and also to the conflict, bring some lasting solution to the conflict. But unfortunately, from nowhere, this old man was shot, his son shot, and, escalation just went from 0 to probably 100 people. He asked that yesterday. Three people who don't belong to either of the sides. I think they are Bosanges, who had traveled to Bawku, and there were 4, in fact. And, you know, one of them got down. The 3 proceeded to, is it a council yard or so, and they dragged them, asked them, where are you going to? They mentioned they were going to a nearby community, and they were presumed to belong to one of the factions, and they were shot. 3 of them, they were shot and killed, according to my sources, you know, a very reliable source in Bawku. And so when these things go on, it becomes very difficult to sit with them, and coupled with the fact that they have also withdrawn. In fact, my conversation last night was to appeal to them to go back to the peace dialogue, the peace council dialogue, because then our brothers, the Kusasis, have withdrawn from the dialogue, and they have, you know, reiterated their concerns. And so once they are not part of the peace dialogue, it becomes difficult to say you are going to talk about peace when one of the feuding parties has withdrawn. So mine was to see how can we get them to go back whilst we try to broker peace, you know, back into the traditional area. And bear in mind, we have the Samampede festival that is supposed to take place on the 30th. So our going back to Bawku, if we were going to go, or if we have to go, is supposed to coincide with this Samampede. But unfortunately, the way things are going, several of the indigents have left Bawku Township because of this. Nurses, teachers, you know, you can mention, the list is unending. Very worrying, I must be honest with you. Yeah.
And Doc, worrying indeed, because that scenario you just described is almost like one from a conflict movie where people are just dragged and shot at for obviously no real reason or proof even of identity. No. So you mentioned that you had visited the place together with some security couples in the country, and you were given some assurance that at least for 3 months you were not going to see anything. Now you've been given another promise. Are you confident about this? Are you just hanging on to that word alone, or there's more we can do to ensure that at least this promise of ensuring peace for some time until the dialogue begins will be realistic or realized?
Well, do I have a choice? Some of us, we don't have a choice. In situations like this, in conflict resolution, you just have to keep pushing and keep changing your method, and the methods that are working, you keep improving upon them. And so we don't seem to have a choice than to appeal, because where we have gotten to, the security solution to Bawku will never work. The security solution, it's temporary. You can send the entire Ghana Police Service, send the entire military to Bawku, and Bawku will still be, you know, in tatters. And so we just have to appeal to their conscience, let them know that it is needless. They don't have to fight. But I am believing that, you know, the promise that they would talk among themselves, they would meet among themselves and ensure that some semblance of peace returns to Bawku, at least for the time being. Mine is that it should be, at least for the time being. They gave us 3 months, and in fact, they adhered to the 3 months. I must you know, congratulate them for 3 months, for some time, for a very long time, since this conflict, you know, reignited about 2 years ago. We hadn't seen a period more than a week where there hadn't been clashes. But for more than 2 months, maybe about 10 weeks, we really didn't see people needlessly dying. I heard you mention 6. The number is more than 6. Those who have died. Right. I think the last 72 hours or so, you can say 6. But the number is gone beyond 10, around 15, according to what my sources is giving me.
Right.
Which to me is worrying.
We'll need to confirm that with the police. And that's another thing.
Yeah,
and that's another thing I was coming to quickly. It appears that when it comes to the Bawku conflict, obviously conflicts must be handled carefully and treated not like any ordinary situation, especially when there's loss of life. But it appears that when it comes to the Bawku conflict, there's just something peculiar about it. So you just had Albert Sori say, for example, depending on who you're talking to, you're not likely to get the full picture. It appears even the police itself is not too confident there in the town in terms of its role in dealing with the problem. How deep is this conflict, and how has it affected even the confidence of the men there and other security personnel in even ensuring that, for even us as journalists, we get the right information?
You see, let me just paint a vivid picture of Bawku to you. Before we went to Bawku the last time, Bawku was like Liberia or Sierra Leone. That is how Bawku was. So you couldn't cross. If you were Kusasi, you couldn't cross from where the Kusasis are to where the Mamprosis are. If you did, you are sure that you won't come back again alive. They might not even find your body. When we visited Bawku, the briefings we had with regards to the security, they showed us, in the chronological order, people who have been shot dead in their farms and partly burnt for no apparent reason. And so Bawku has become a dent on our democracy. Bawku has become a war zone, if you want to paint it that way. There is deep suspicion. And so if you landed in Bawku today, depending on who you are talking to, if you gave out an information that looked like you belonged to one of the feuding parties, you are likely to be killed. And that is what happened to these three persons I'm told are Bosanges or so. Bosanges are not Mamprosis, they are not Kusasis. So why would anybody? But when I'm told that when they alighted and they asked them, where are you going to? The town they mentioned they were going to, there were suspicions, so they killed them immediately. So Bawku has become the Liberia we saw, the Sierra Leone we saw, where people were literally shot in broad daylight. That is how Bawku eventually has become. And now they have moved away from killing, innocent persons and attacking, state properties, and assets. They shot into an ambulance, a fire tender that was heading to some homes that have been touched, I think 2-3 days ago. They shot into the fire tender and, damaged the fuel tank and the fuel leak. They would have killed the fire officers in Bawku Township, those who were heading. They shot into power pylons, and Bawku went out, into darkness for several days. They've shot into transformers. So my point is that it has become so confusing. Some of us, you need to, sometimes when you think you are ahead of the situation, you are understanding it, then comes another round of confusion where the trend is changing. And once the trend is changing, it means you have to take some steps back and try to understand the trend as an analyst or a security person. And that is a confusion, because then my question is, we have people who are warlords, who are connected to this Bawku conflict, who are profiting from selling bullets and firearms to the combatants in Bawku. And my point is that that is also another issue that we have to look at. Because then once you have persons linked to Bawku selling bullets to combatants and making sure that so long as the conflict rages on, they benefit, then we are in trouble. Now we have Burkina Faso, which is about 60% in the hands of rebels. Do we know if some of these rebels have crossed into the territory of Ghana through Sankasi or through the other areas into Ghana, and they are fomenting some of this trouble? Because now attacking state what do you call it, assets,
installations,
like power lines that supply electricity to Ghana, to the Bawku area, to Togo, part of Togo, and then part of Burkina Faso. They brought those lines down, shot into transformers. It took time for them to fix it. So that dimension is taken. If we don't pay attention to Bawku, Bawku would be the route that probably will lead us to what Burkina Faso has gotten itself into and the other neighboring countries. So I think that I would appeal to our state security or the government, directly appeal to the President of the Republic to pay a special attention to Bawku, because not paying special attention to Bawku and the attention only is on security. Security solution to Bawku alone will not work. It's a temporary solution. If you want a lasting solution to Bawku, there are reasons why these people are fighting. Let's see, how do we handle it? If we're able to deal with that, fine. If not, you know what, it's going to be difficult. Some of us, like I told you, I slept at 1 a.m. And I'm sure those I spoke to might be listening to me, and they will tell you how sometimes I spend about an hour or an hour and a half speaking to one person. And you know, you have to continuously let them know that, you know what, put your guns down, you are a leader, tell your colleagues to put, then they will tell you that they have the firearms, they have the bullets in their numbers. What do you do?
Right.
What do you do? So for me, it's worrying. I think we must pay special attention to Bawku.
Right. You say it's a dent on our democracy. Those are your words. You further appeal to the president to pay special attention. But beyond sending men there, deploying men there, what real steps can be taken to ensure that we deal with this, which is, like you say, taking on a new dimension, which could plunge us into deeper chaos?
Okay, so some of the things I picked up yesterday, last night, or this dawn, talking to them, have to do with the fact that those who are committing these crimes, some of them are known, but they are not arrested. And so, or the guy is arrested and sent to Bawku for prosecution. The next thing, the guy is released and he comes back into town. And so, once the guy is back, they tend to mock the other side and say, well, we shot you, we killed you, we are back. And so mine is that we need a holistic solution to Bawku, and that should involve the three organs of government. We need the executive, the president and his team to, come on board. We need the, the legislative arm, and we need the judiciary. If these three arms decide to work together and bring in the feuding parties to a round table, mine is that the reason why these, organs must come together in trying to help resolve Bawku is that if the guy is sent to, to court, obviously, he will have to go and meet a judge, and the judge would have to give a certain ruling and say, you've been granted bail. But what are the bail conditions? Would the bail conditions involve, don't go back to Bawku, or you are supposed to be granted bail, and then the bail you sign that you are supposed to be confined into a certain, you are not supposed to leave a certain area. These are some of the things that I think we should be looking at. But unfortunately, it's been a bit of disconnect solution we are trying to profile when it comes to Bawku. So for me, we should look at it. As for the chieftaincy dispute, we all know it is a chieftaincy dispute, but it is moved from the realm of chieftaincy dispute to the realm of criminality, the realm of people profiting. And therefore, that angle we have got, because sometimes they start this conflict just so that they can steal people's cattle. They start them so they can break into your cement shop and steal your cement and steal your rice, steal your groceries, steal other stuff. So it's once it moves into that area, those who perpetrate these crimes, for them, the conflict must go on so they can benefit. So I think that until such a time that we can bring all of these people onto a round table, the three organs of government, bring the Kusansis, the Mamprosis, add the chief, the Peace Council, CSOs, and add, even all of you, the media, and make sure that these things are discussed and probably solutions. They gave us 3 months, and in fact, they did well. And I think that if we keep pushing and working with them, we will find some semblance of solution. Whilst we say those who are not happy, the courts, the doors of the courts are still open. If you think something is not good for you, either of the side or both of them can head back to court and deal with this issue. If not, then you know what, we will be there, and Bawku would be the angle where probably those who want to hit Ghana where it will hurt would use it to hit Ghana. And so far so good, we really haven't had terrorists attacking us. So we have that record that hasn't been touched. But are we looking on and inviting them in this manner? Because then what is going on? Shooting innocent people, shooting into state assets, shooting buses, shooting children, women, old men, stealing, and we are just watching. The security solution alone, for me, will not be a solution, a more permanent solution to Bawku. Let's have a more permanent solution to Bawku. Thank you.
I appreciate your time here this morning, Dr. Adam Bonai. Thank you for your help in trying to resolve the situation in Bawku. Dr. Adam Bonai is a security analyst, and he's been sharing his thoughts with us with regards to the situation in Bawku. If I still have Albert on, quickly, Albert, what are the residents saying? Because they are at the heart of this, and we know that there are businesses, there are schools, hospitals, all affected by this. What is the mood in the town, and what are the residents saying?
And that, like I said earlier, people are not going about their normal everyday activity with the kind of ease that you will find in peaceful places. So for most of the residents of Bawku, they are just living in fear because they do not know when you'll be caught in the middle of a shooting incident, for instance. On market days, people are even scared to go to the market. There are people who, like I said, have left the town and moved to other places for their own safety. There are teachers who are afraid to go to school. And just like Doctor was describing, it is difficult for either side to cross to the area where the other side lives. So if, for instance, you are a teacher and you belong to one of the factions, but your school is on the other side, it definitely means that you will not even attempt to go to work. Right. The same applies for people who are nurses and people who have jobs on the side where they are rivaling faction lives. So it's basically making life difficult for everyone. And the expectation is that peace returns soon so that people can go about their normal everyday life.
Finally, before you go, I'm just curious, how do they identify if you are Kusasi or Mamprusi?
I think it mostly would have to do with, of course, if they are not sure, I'm not sure you'll be attacked. But, they live in almost close proximity to each other. So they would know each other by faces. They will identify each other because some other person knows you and will, tell the others, etc. It's really difficult to tell how they do it, but these attacks go on. There was a time when somebody from one of the factions traveled to Bolga. The person was in a vehicle returning into the Bawku township. The vehicle was stopped and the person was brought out of the vehicle and shot. So it appears they have their own methods of keeping eyes on each other and knowing when you are in a place where you could easily be attacked. And that is the unfortunate situation, Bernice.
Thank you very much. Albert Sori is our correspondent in the Upper East region, bringing us an update on what's been happening in Bawku. We'll keep our eyes there. We know that RECSEC has deployed more security. We expect that there will be some other measures, practical measures taken, and we will be following up and updating you as well. Now, water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. Produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we get interactive with you. Do stay. It's the AM show with Bernice and Benjamin. Now time to get interactive with you. The number to call?
030-211-69. The way you shouted at me for a moment. 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. Get interactive with us. We have only a few minutes left, and let's know what your thoughts are on the Bawku situation. If you are in that part of the country, Upper East, let us know what your sentiments are. Yeah. For some of us, I was having a discussion. We feel these little tensions get triggered far too often. What do we do to stem the tide of this? Because there's a history to it. Yeah. The Mampusis and the Kusasis. Long standing.
And you know, we are a traditional people, and I'm sure this has been communicated and handed down. And like Dr. Bonar says, it's developed over the years. It's taken different dimensions over the years. So if you're just handing the chieftaincy historical bit of it, you may be missing a point, because it may have, you know, changed into something else. And Albert also suggested or indicated that it's more retaliatory now. So you did something to me.
I do.
I've
you
kept
do me,
it.
I do you.
Yeah, I've kept it in my head. Okay, you don't worry. When the opportunity comes, I'll strike, and I strike harder. You know, so it's rather a troubling situation. And I know that we have people from Bawku watching us, because we get feedback. So just let us know how you're doing this morning. Please, when you call, just go straight to the point, so we can have other callers. We have a caller from Pig Farm. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Kindly share your thoughts with us.
Yes, actually, I really enjoyed the interview you had with the Deputy Minister for Education this morning. And I was very impressed. But my concern was about the government's attitude towards the renewable energy, where they were saying they were going to go for nuclear because it is cleaner than all other renewable energy that we have. I think that we should look at the entire value chain before we decide which type of renewable energy we will go into. Particularly, I am for wind, particularly offshore wind, because the value chain is big, it can create more jobs, it can reduce unemployment, you know, it can also boost our export earnings. When you go into offshore wind, for example, you are looking at the aluminium industry, the Bawku. It can produce a lot of aluminium for the wind turbines and so on. This will create jobs for people. The rising star now is hydrogen. Many countries are going into hydrogen, and you need wind, electricity, and then water to produce green hydrogen. Very soon, aircraft and vehicles will go into electric vehicles and hydrogen and so on. And it is better for government to consider that area.
Right.
Go for offshore wind and then use it to build upon it to introduce hydrogen into the economy. And our dependence on all these foreign import and so on will end. That is my thought.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing with us. So Benjamin is making reference to your conversation with Andrew Mercer.
Yes.
And
some interesting points. So he mentioned, for example, Andrew Mercer, that in January from 10th to the 12th, maybe we should pick our next caller and then I'll come to that.
Yeah, sure. We have Akonoba joining us. Hello, good morning to you. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, good morning, my dear and my mentor. Kabu, how are you, Joseph? You see, let me say something. A Japanese honorable, with all due respect to him, he's a lawyer. If he thinks Parliament has acted controversially or Parliament did not follow any procedure of law, he can go to court. What is he talking about? Parliament delayed in passing this violated this session. He can go to court. He can go to court. So what is he doing? You see, I had wanted you to ask him this question. If any MPP man comes, just ask him this question. Ask him whether or not the war in Russia and Ukraine is still in force. Now, if the war is still in force, Baumia and Obriata and F are been telling us that the depreciation of the city has to do with the war in Russia and Ukraine. Now, they are seeing some cosmetic appreciation of the city. But yes, the war is still there. So how are they able to agree and disagree with this point? So you can see that these people, you cannot trust them. The war is still there, but the city is appreciating. But at the time that the city is appreciating, you said it's because of Russia-Ukraine. As the Russia-Ukraine gone, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, Akonoba. That's a very interesting way to end his submission. But, you know, he was making reference to when Mr. Mercer was talking about the fact that the appropriation bill was passed and made reference to the, you know, and said, you know, he said there was a breach in some procedure there. So that's what he's saying, that he should have, he could have.
He should take the matter to court.
As a lawyer. But, Benjamin, that's all time will allow us. Sadly, we wish we could have gotten more interactive with you. Hopefully, we'll make more time tomorrow to get interactive with you. But Benjamin,
but I just want to re-echo this. Yeah. He says January 10th to 12th, the gold for oil deal, the cheaper oil, will start trickling in from the UAE, and there are some arrangements with Morocco. Actually, some deals already signed, and that by the end of February, Tor will be back in action. And these are things that we're going to be watching closely to see how developments pan out. Because in the end, Tor is one of the reasons we've got to where we are, especially in terms of fuel prices. So if we get it right, it will be a really good step in the right direction.
So it's a few days to Christmas. Benjamin and I are gearing up for the festivities.
We are?
We are. Well, that will be all time will allow us this morning here with you, but we are grateful that you can make time to join us. And God willing, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. we are back. We'll bring you the news right through to the headlines, to sports, and then we delve into our big stories and get interactive with you. So do make time with us tomorrow. For now, it's goodbye. Up next is News Desk.